Chapter 1355. When Feng Lin walked out of the cafe, but the bitterness in his eyes didn't fade. When Feng Lin's eyes reddened uncontrollably, his footsteps quickened. When Yu Lily and O Ming reached home, she couldn't relax. The image of when Feng Lin's back appeared in her mind, and she felt an indescribable pain. "Let's go to Fujian tomorrow," O Ming said. Yu Lily was stunned. "Why are we going to Fujian?" "To look for your father." O Ming held her hand and led her inside. "Come on, let's sleep together." Yu Lily followed him into the room and said reluctantly, "No. Let's just leave it like this. I don't need a father. That Jin guy has a happy family now. Why should I interfere?" If she did that, the current balance would be ruined. Yu Lily didn't want to do that. She didn't want to call such a man her father. O Ming pulled her over and said, "Yeah. Let's not think about this anymore. Let's sleep for a while. I'll make a trip to the office. I'll be back for dinner with you." Yu Lily nodded her head. "All right. Be careful. Good afternoon." O Ming walked out of the house, picked up his phone and called Wen Fenglin. Su Qianxi sat on the toilet seat in the bathroom, looking at the pregnancy test in her hand in a daze. All three of them without exception had 2 lines. Was she pregnant? Knock knock. There was a knock on the bathroom door. Li Xiqing's voice came through the door. "Wifey, are you done?" Su Qianxi gripped the pregnancy test in her hand and scratched her hair. She stood up and opened the door. Li Xiqing looked at the grave expression on Su Qianxi's face and had a bad feeling about it. "How is it?" Li Xiqing asked as he gently touched her face. Su Qianxi pouted and hugged him tightly without saying a word. Li Xiqing's heart, which had been in his throat, suddenly relaxed. Su Qianxi could vaguely sense his disappointment. Li Xiqing hugged her with one arm and stroked her hair with his warm palm. He said in a low voice, "It's okay. The child will come when it's meant to." When Su Qianxi heard this, she chuckled and hugged him tightly. "You're the one who wants children. Why are you comforting me? I should be the one comforting you." Li Xiqing was even more disappointed. "Then why don't you comfort me?" She let him go and smiled brightly. "Don't be disappointed, Mr. Li. I'm pregnant." He paused, looked up at the woman in front of him, and asked incredulously, "What did you say?" "I said, I'm pregnant, I'm going to be a mother again, you're going to be a father again." Su Qianxi put her hands in his ear and shouted. Her smile widened and her tone was light. Li Xiqing's heart raced. He suddenly laughed and looked at Su Qianxi. "Really?" "Yes." She showed him the pregnancy test. Li Xiqing didn't even look at the pregnancy test kit. He laughed and kissed Su Qianxi's face hard. Really pregnant?" Su Qianxi looked at him, feeling warm. Compared to 5 years ago, Li Xiqing was even more agitated and straightforward. Li Xiqing smiled, but his eyes turned red. He looked at his wife and whispered, "Thank you, Mrs. Li." Chapter 1356. Although Li Xiqing now had 3 children calling him dad, he didn't have much of a sense of being a father. This role seemed to be somewhat distant from him. But if he could have another child, he could start from scratch. Maybe it would feel different. Su Qianxi looked at him, stood on her tiptoes and kissed his lips. "I love you, Mr. Li." Li Xiqing hugged her and pressed his forehead against hers, smiling without saying a word. "I love you too, Mrs. Li." The next few days passed by uneventfully. Yu Lily drew at home and took care of the housework and 3 meals a day. She didn't seem to be any different from other housewives. At Eurasian Comics, Yu Lily was temporarily on paid leave in the name of marriage. But almost everyone in the company already knew that Yu Lily was actually married to the big boss of Eurasian Comics, so it didn't matter whether she went to work or not. Yu Lily had the habit of running in the morning. Although she lived in the same area as Su Qianxi, it was difficult to meet Su Qianxi in the morning. Instead, she met Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing brought a few children out for a run, and the 3 children chased each other. Li Jinyue's body was round, and she almost became a little fat. She was panting when she ran and her little face was red. When she saw Yu Lily, Li Jinyue was surprised and shouted, "Auntie Lily." The little girl ran toward Yu Lily and shouted, "Auntie Lily, here." Yu Lily stopped and looked at Li Jinyue. "Good morning." Li Xiqing was with the 2 boys. When he saw Li Jinyue running toward Yu Lily, he didn't care anymore. He nodded at Yu Lily as a greeting, and then slowly ran with the children. Yu Lily looked at the father and son running, and the happy scene looked very harmonious. "How happy." Li Jinyue succeeded in slacking off and happily said to Yu Lily, "Good morning, Auntie." The little fellow had already put on a short-sleeved shirt. His fleshy arms were segmented and looked very cute. Yu Lily touched her hand and asked, "Where's Mommy?" Mommy is sleeping at home. Daddy said that Mommy has a baby in her stomach, and she needs to sleep more to be good for the baby, Li Jianhua said with a smile. Yu Lili heard that and was slightly surprised. Your mother is pregnant again? Yes, yes. Li Jianhua was a little excited and secretly said, Mommy has a baby now, so she won't have time to teach us how to read and write. Daddy said he's going to send me to school. I'm going to be in grade 1. In the little guy's world, it was always so simple to be happy or not. Yu Lili chuckled and stood up. Come, I'll take you to your father. Andy, can we walk there? You have to run to grow up healthily. Only then can you take care of your younger brothers and sisters. You'll be a big sister soon, Yu Lili said with a smile, but her heart was a little complicated. She was pregnant again, how nice. Yu Lili had a smile on her lips, but there was a sense of loneliness in her eyes. The little boy didn't notice the change in Yu Lili's mood. When he heard her words, he nodded and said, Yes, I have to take care of my brother and sister. Let's go. Without waiting for Yu Lili to catch up, Li Jianhua ran off first. Chapter 1357. Ming had been back to work for the past 2 days. He had been busy until late every day. When Yu Lili ran back, Ming was still asleep. Yu Lili took her time preparing breakfast. When she was done, she bit into a piece of bread and walked into the room. When she opened the door, she heard the sound of washing up coming from the bathroom. The bathroom door wasn't closed. Yu Lili walked in and leaned against the door. As she bit into the bread, she said, Chan seems to be pregnant again. Ming paused in the middle of washing his face and turned to look at her. Pregnant again? He quickly finished washing his face and said, Second brother is really efficient. How long has it been since he came back? He's just gotten familiar with the children, and now he's having a baby. Yu Lili stared at him but quickly stuffed the bread into her mouth and said, I've made breakfast. Come out and eat. Ming put the towel away and turned to walk out. Yu Lili was already downstairs. After changing his clothes, Ming walked down at a moderate pace. Yu Lili was looking at her phone at the table. When she heard the footsteps behind her, she said, Uncle Wen sent me a WeChat message. Ming walked over to the table and sat down. He picked up the glass of milk and took a sip. What did he say? He said that the person from the Zhen family is coming to see me. Yu Lili drank the milk without looking up. I don't want to go. It's boring. Did Uncle Wen tell Zhen Xianlang? Ming looked at Yu Lili. Why don't you go? After all, he's your father. I don't want a father like that. He has his own family. I don't need to ruin their lives. Ming, I really don't want to. She used to look forward to her parents. When she found out that her parents were Qi Xian and Zhen Xianlang, she didn't want them anymore. Anyway, she was already an adult. What did she need her parents for? What are you going to tell Uncle Wen? He came all the way from Fujian. If you don't meet him, what do you expect Uncle Wen to do? Ming ate his bread and looked at her with a deep gaze. I feel that no matter what, we should meet him first. Furthermore, I feel that things aren't that simple. Yu Lili was stunned and looked at him in confusion. What does he mean by things aren't that simple? Ming didn't explain. In the end, Yu Lili agreed to meet Zhen Xianlang. When Zhen Xianlang arrived in Kingstown, Yu Lili was painting at home while he went to the office. Yu Lili was so engrossed in her painting that she didn't notice the passage of time. When the phone rang, it was already noon. It was a call from Ming. Honey, Uncle Wen and Uncle Zhen have arrived in Kingstown. Where are you? I'll pick you up. He's at home. You can go directly to the airport to pick him up. I'll go by myself. I'll let you know when I find a place to eat. All right. After reaching an agreement, Yu Lili quickly booked a private room in a restaurant and began to dress herself up. She changed her clothes and put on some light makeup before driving to the restaurant. When they arrived, they found that they had already arrived. When Yu Lili walked in, the first person she saw was her husband, followed by Uncle Wen and finally Zhen Xianlang. Compared to a while ago, Zhen Xianlang appeared rounder and taller. His cheekbones were slightly higher, and his eyes beneath his glasses were full of vigor. Chapter 1358. Zhen Xianlang was the man who had married Qi Xian. Not long after Qi Xian's death, he had married another woman. He was also Yu Lili's father. Yu Lili knew that, but she still harbored some resentment toward this man. He didn't love Qi Xian, but he had married her and left Wen Fenglin alone for the rest of his life. Yu Lili felt a little resentful. Yu Lili sat down and looked at him with a smile. Yeah, we meet again. The waiter poured some tea for Yu Lili and quickly left the scene. No one spoke. The atmosphere was dead silent. Yu Lili took a sip of tea and lowered her head, deep in thought. Lily, why don't you order something? We're all grown men and we don't know what to eat. When Feng Lin placed the menu on the wheel and turned it over to Yu Lily. Yu Lily took the menu and placed it between her and O Ming. They looked at it together. Is there anything you don't eat? Yu Lily looked up at Wen Fenglin and then at Zhen Xianlang. Do you eat seafood? How about sashimi? Zhen Xianlang looked at her and replied, I'm allergic to seafood. I can't eat too much. Yu Lily looked regretful and said, What a pity. Seafood is delicious. Uncle Wen, do you want some? Yeah, I'm fine with anything. I'm not a picky eater. Wen Fenglin sipped his tea and smiled. The two dimples on his lips made him look intoxicating. That's fine. You can order seafood. Laowen loves seafood. Every time I go out with him he eats a lot. I can still eat a little. Zhen Xianlang laughed. But my son is allergic to seafood too. Are you okay with that? Sure. Yu Lily looked at the seafood on the menu. Sashimi was fine with anything. Hubby, help me call the waiter. The waiter came over quickly. Yu Lily placed her order and asked for a bottle of corn juice. Throughout the meal, Zhen Xianlang and Wen Fenglin interacted from time to time. O Ming also spoke to them, but Yu Lily didn't know what to say. It was inevitable for men to smoke and drink at a meal. Zhen Xianlang took out a pack of cigarettes and handed one to Wen Fenglin and one to O Ming. Wen Fenglin took it and lit it, but he didn't smoke much. O Ming politely declined. Thank you, Uncle Zhen, but we're preparing for pregnancy. I won't smoke. Zhen Xianlang nodded his head. It was hard to read his expression. He looked at O Ming and asked, Xianlang? Yeah, we've already gotten our marriage certificate. The wedding will be held next month and we're still preparing for it. O Ming had a smile on his face. As he spoke, he looked at Yu Lily with a gentle gaze. That's really fast. I actually didn't hear anything about it. Old Wen, did you already know about it? Zhen Xianlang said with some rebuke. Wen Fenglin looked a little vexed. He smacked his head and said, Look at me. I forgot to tell you. But it's not too late to know now. At the wedding next month, you can still act as a father and hand Lily's hand over to O Ming's. Of Li. One of when Faf Li. One of. Chapter 1359. It was more than that. When Wen Fenglin told him about it, Zhen Xianlang was rendered speechless. Qi Xian had a child? A surrogate child. When Zhen Xianlang said that, he laughed and said, Back when we were together she didn't give the game away at all. I was too irresponsible as a husband. When Yu Lily heard that and saw the guilt in his eyes, she lowered her head. Actually, it wasn't Zhen Xianlang's fault. Everyone knew that Xianer's health wasn't good. Who would have thought that the gentle and weak sister Lin would hire a surrogate to give birth to a child? At that time, the technology for surrogacy wasn't very developed. She probably just wanted to give it a try and conceive the child. The more Yu Lily thought about it, the more bitter she felt. Qi Xian's health wasn't good. If she couldn't have a child, what about me? Did I have to hire a surrogate as well? Could it be that mother and daughter were destined to walk the same path? Yu Lily's heart ached at the thought. She turned her head and grabbed O Ming's hand. O Ming turned his head and looked at her with confusion. His peach blossom eyes softened as he asked, What's the matter? Yu Lily shook her head gently and didn't say another word. The meal was quickly over. Yu Lily had been worried that if he brought her home, his family would change and she would feel awkward. After the meal, Yu Lily realized that she had been overthinking things. She had thought that there would be progress after the meal, but there didn't seem to be. It was obvious that Zhen Xianlang didn't have much hope for his daughter. He didn't have any intention of asking Yu Lily to call him daddy, and he didn't have any intention of bringing her home. It was as if he was there to meet someone he had no relationship with. Yu Lily felt a little relieved but at the same time, a little disappointed. Her father hadn't welcomed her as she had imagined. After O Ming and Yu Lily left, Wen Fenglin brought Zhen Xianlang, who hadn't been to Kingstown in a long time, to meet up with his old friends. Wen Fenglin wasn't in a good mood. Just as Wen Fenglin was about to head over to an old friend's house, Zhen Xianlang said, Laowen, let's talk. Wen Fenglin tilted his head to look at him. What do you want to talk about? Regarding that child, I think we need to talk about it. Zhen Xianlang took a long drag on his cigarette and said meaningfully, Why are you so sure that girl is my child? Wen Fenglin was a little angry when he heard that. His brows furrowed. His usual gentleness was nowhere to be seen. What do you mean? I said, I need to do a DNA test with that child. When Wen Fenglin heard that, he was even more annoyed. He turned around to face him. Are you suspecting that Lily isn't your child at all? No wonder he didn't have the slightest bit of enthusiasm at the dining table. So this was what he was thinking in his heart. Zhen Xianlang looked at Wen Fenglin's darkened expression and said, "You can't blame me for being suspicious. After all." "Oh." Before he could finish his sentence, Wen Fenglin punched him. A firm and hard fist smashed into Zhen Xianlang's face. Caught off guard, Zhen Xianlang almost fell to the ground. Chapter 1360. When Fenglin felt all the pent-up anger in his heart for so many years explode in an instant. The volcano in the depths of his heart erupted uncontrollably. When Fenglin didn't feel any relief from the punch. Instead he became even more enraged. He took a step forward and growled, "Are you suspecting that Xian'er was unfaithful to you? Your AB** starred." Zhen Xianlang covered his pained face and took a deep breath. When he heard that, he laughed coldly and said, "Unfaithful? When Fenglin, do you dare say that nothing happened during the 2 weeks that you stayed with Xian'er?" When Fenglin was stunned when he heard that. He looked at Zhen Xianlang. Zhen Xianlang straightened up and looked at Wen Fenglin. His face was filled with anger. "What? You have nothing to say now? What do you mean by that?" Wen Fenglin's heart raced. "You're suspecting. No, that's impossible. She's already married to you and she's gone now. How can you still suspect her? Are you even human?" Zhen Xianlang looked at Wen Fenglin coldly. "You're guilty. You and her weren't clean back then, were you?" The blunt words fell into Wen Fenglin's ears like an arrow that had been shot from the dark. Wen Fenglin gritted his teeth in anger. He grabbed Zhen Xianlang by the collar and shouted, "Watch your words. What do you mean by, not clean? The two of us were a couple back then. You stole my love away from me. How dare you say such things now? Don't you have any shame? If that's the case, there was really something going on between the two of you." Wen Fenglin was even more enraged. He raised his fist and prepared to land a punch on Zhen Xianlang's face. However, Zhen Xianlang clenched his fist tightly. "After we got married, she kept using her health as an excuse to reject me. But when she was asleep, she called out your name." Zhen Xianlang pushed him away. "We've been friends for many years. I don't want to fall out with you. That girl is probably Xian'er's daughter, but whose flesh and blood is she? I don't think she's mine." "Zhen Xianlang, you're insulting her. Xian'er isn't a fickle girl." "I know." Zhen Xianlang's voice was a little bitter. "Her heart has always been with you, so even if she married me, she wouldn't consummate the marriage with me." When these words landed on Wen Fenglin, it was like a torrent falling into the green waters of a lake. In an instant, the water splashed and exploded. "You didn't consummate your marriage?" Wen Fenglin's heart raced. He looked at Zhen Xianlang in disbelief. "How is that possible? Could it be that Yu Lily is actually his daughter?" With that thought in mind, Wen Fenglin felt as if his heart was about to leap out of his throat. His daughter, her daughter, their daughter? Zhen Xianlang looked at him and said, "We all know Xian'er. You know very well whether it's possible or not. However, because Xian'er is a surrogate, I'm not sure whose child it is. Of course he would like Xian'er's child." However, Zhen Xianlang felt that this child wasn't his flesh and blood. Even though Qi Xian was his wife, even though Qi Xian had died in his bed, her feelings for him had always been that of an elder brother. There had never been any romantic feelings between a man and a woman. Xian'er's health wasn't good, but she was able to secretly hire a surrogate and run all over the place. If it were his child, Xian'er wouldn't have needed to do that. Zhen Xianlang understood that, but he refused to give up. What if? Xian'er felt that she couldn't cut off the Zhen family line, so she secretly took his sperm to get pregnant. Chapter 1361. Zhen Xianlang's words left Wen Fenglin deep in thought. Back then, when they were young, a man and a woman living together, it was inevitable that they would have that kind of impulse. Those 2 weeks were Wen Fenglin's happiest times. It was just that in that half a month they had only done it once. Was it possible to get pregnant just once? If she really got pregnant that time, then after Xian'er found out that she was pregnant, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to keep the child, so she found a surrogate, right? Wen Fenglin thought it was highly possible and his excitement grew. Was that so? When Zhen Xianlang saw the expression on Wen Fenglin's face, he felt even more upset. Wen Fenglin took out his phone and dialed Yu Lily's number. Yu Lily and O Ming had just driven off when they received a call from Wen Fenglin. When she saw the name Uncle Wen, Yu Lily hesitated for a moment before answering the call. "Uncle Wen. Lily, where are you now?" Wen Fenglin sounded agitated. "I have something to tell you. O Ming and I just drove out. Where are you now? Let's go over now." Wen Fenglin was still in the private room and hadn't left. When they reached the entrance of the restaurant, Wen Fenglin and Zhen Xianlang quickly left. After getting into Ming's car when Fenglin said, "Let's go to the hospital." "What's wrong?" Yu Lily looked at them strangely. There was a faint blush on Fenglin's face as he said, "Lily, it's very possible that you're not old Jin's daughter. She might not be Zhen Xianlong's daughter?" When Fenglin's words sounded ridiculous to Yu Lily. If she wasn't Zhen Xianlong's daughter, whose daughter was she? Qi Xian married Zhen Xianlang. Wasn't Qi Xian's child Zhen Xianlong's child? Yu Lily found it hard to believe, but then she immediately thought of another important point. Could she possibly not be Qi Xian's daughter? After all, Qi Xian was already dead and the dead could not testify. Who knew if that woman was telling the truth or not? Yu Lily was a little worried, but she still listened to them and got Ming to drive to the hospital. Yu Lily drew her blood and came out quickly. Zhen Xianlang wasn't the only one who had his blood drawn. Wen Fenglin had his blood drawn as well. Yu Lily looked at Wen Fenglin with suspicion. Wen Fenglin seemed to be in a very good mood that day. No, he was in a very good mood that afternoon. Wen Fenglin seemed to be in high spirits. Yu Lily seemed to have guessed something. Yu Lily didn't mention the possibility. When they got home she asked Ming, "Ming, based on Uncle Wen's attitude, don't tell me they think that Qi Xian's child is Uncle Wen's child?" If Yi Fenglin thought of. In he thought. Xian thought. Mingy. Fin. Chapter 1362. Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Uncle Wen is stout, not fat. Middle-aged people are already like that. Uncle Wen takes good care of himself. Yu Lily shook her head. In any case, we don't look alike. Besides, I don't look like Qi Xian at all. They always say that we look alike after interacting with each other. They talk about temperament and temperament. Temperament is nurtured. I'm guessing that when Qi Xian was young, she probably grew up in a similar environment as me. That's why she thinks we look alike. The more Yu Lily thought about it, the more likely it seemed. I think that's probably the case. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental? There are so many orphans in the world, and there are so many who can't find their biological parents. I've been so unlucky since I was young. How could I have been so lucky to find them just at the right time? Ming laughed. He stroked her hair with his large, warm hands and said, "What do you mean by just at the right time? I looked for a long time, all right?" Is that so? Yu Lily still felt that it was a little unrealistic. Then how do you know that what that person said was true? Qi Xian has been dead for so many years. How could they confirm that the surrogate was Qi Xian just by looking at your photo? I still don't think it's very reliable. Ming felt a little helpless. He pulled her down and said, "Do I need you to think it's reliable? In any case, the blood test results will be out tomorrow. At that time, if you're not Zhen Xianlong's daughter or Uncle Wen's daughter, then we can be sure that you're not Qi Xian's daughter." What if it's both? Yu Lily looked up at him and laughed. If it's both, then what will happen? Ming said seriously, "Then I'll probably be taken away by the people at the Institute of Scientific Research to be dissected?" "You're the one who'll be dissected." "Well?" Ming's eyes flashed with a smile. He opened his arms and said, "You can dissect it. I won't resist." "Get lost." "Get lost in broad daylight?" "I don't mind," Yu Lily said. "Go back to your company. Are you done with your work? Your head is full of unhealthy thoughts." Ming turned around and hugged her. The corners of his lips lifted slightly, and he chuckled wickedly. His peach blossom eyes were full of mirth as he said, "What do you mean by unhealthy thoughts? This is the highest happiness in life, doing happy things with the person you love deeply." Yu Lily was stunned by his fallacious reasoning. She turned her head away and ignored him. Ming lowered his head to kiss her on the cheek, but she avoided it. Then he kissed her neck, but Yu Lily shrank back. The smile in Ming's eyes deepened. He stuck out the tip of his tongue and gently slid it across her skin. Yu Lily's body trembled slightly. She immediately pushed him away and said, "No, I'm exhausted. Come back at night." Ming was just teasing her. When he heard what she said, his eyes curved and he said, "Kiss me." Yu Lily turned her head and quickly kissed him on the lips. But before she could leave, her head was locked by his palm. Her lips were sealed and he penetrated her. Ming's movements were light and wild. He could feel Yu Lily's body moving with his movements. He felt like he was floating and the comfort in his heart was rising. After the long kiss, Yu Lily panted slightly and held him in her arms. Ming was about to tease her, but he inadvertently saw that her eyes were slightly red. His heart tightened. Ming sat up with her in his arms. "What's wrong?" Chapter 1363. How could that be? It can't be. Ming looked at her, his dark eyes deep and serious. Don't think too much. There will always be a time when it's time. It was said that children were a gift from the heavens and Yu Lily believed that. Hearing what Ming said, Yu Lily subconsciously wanted to laugh, but when she curled her lips she couldn't smile. Do you think it's because of the 2 children I had miscarried that she's punishing me? Don't let your imagination run wild. The more you think about it, the more ridiculous it becomes. Why are you so superstitious? Ming pinched her nose and said unhappily, Did old Mrs. Shen teach you to say that? Yu Lily slapped his hand away and rebuked, How could that be? I just feel that way, who knows? That old lady is very strange. She claims to be a fortune teller. Lately you've been calling her so frequently. It's hard to say. Yu Lily stretched out her leg and kicked him. Why aren't you going to work? Are you abandoning the company? It's okay. My father is here. Ming's body fell down again. I'm someone who took marriage leave. Yu Lily looked up at him and asked, How much longer do you have before your marriage leave? Indefinitely. Anyway, my father is here to take care of it. Yu Lily's lips curved. How can that be? Your mother will have something to say about it. I'm doing this for their own good, Ming said. Look at how old they are. If they stay together it will affect their relationship. F***ck, what kind of twisted logic is that? Why are you asking this? Do you have any plans? Yu Lily thought about it and said, Why don't we make a trip to the capital in the next few days? Why would we go to the capital? Ming asked. I heard that there's a very efficacious temple in the capital where people can pray for children. Yu Lily said hesitantly. As expected, when she saw Ming's expression change, she quickly waved her hands and said, I'm not superstitious. I just think it's better to believe in something than to believe in it. Ming didn't believe in such nonsense, but there were some things that you had to believe in. Although old Mrs. Shun was full of nonsense, when she told Xiao Ziqing's fortune, most of it was correct. Ming sighed deeply and said, Well, I'll go see the old lady and get to know her better. When Yu Lily heard that, a smile appeared on her face. She opened her arms and hugged him tightly. Hubby, I love you. Go to work. Ming was speechless. You want me to go to work because you love me? That's right. Otherwise, people will say that you're unable to extricate yourself from your beauty. If they say that I'm a femme fatale, that would be terrible. It's okay, I don't care. The company won't collapse even if I don't go there. Ahem, actually, if you're at home, I won't be able to finish my work. I haven't even finished my drawings for this week. I have to hand them in 2 days. I won't make it in time. In the end, Ming was chased away by Yu Lily. The day was peaceful. The next day Yu Lily woke up early. She glanced at her phone and waited for Uncle Wen's message. But just like that, an entire morning passed. It wasn't until after lunch that when Feng Lin sent a message. On WeChat the first message was a picture. When Yu Lily saw it, she blinked and felt a little disappointed. She didn't know why, but she suddenly felt terrible. She felt the urge to cry. Pursing her lips, Yu Lily's fingers tapped on the keyboard and asked, Whose is it? It seemed a little redundant to ask such a question. Chapter 1364. Yu Lily's heart was a little empty and disappointed. Even though she had already known the outcome when the truth was revealed to her, Yu Lily still felt unhappy. When Feng Lin didn't answer her directly. Instead he sent another picture. The name on it was eye-catching, Zhen Xianlang. Yu Lily was stunned when she saw it. Zhen Xianlang? The 0000 belonged to Zhen Xianlang? Following that, when Feng Lin sent another photo over. When Feng Lin's mind went blank. Yu Lily's hands trembled. Covering her mouth, Yu Lily's eyes were moist. When Feng Lin. Her blood relationship with When Feng Lin was, in other words, her father was the man she had always liked. The uncle she had always liked. Ding dong. Her phone rang again. When Feng Lin, where are you? There was no one at home. Ming had gone to the office. Yu Lily's heart was racing. Her hands were trembling. She replied to Wen Fenglin's message. At home. Wen Fenglin, you in Xiao's new house? Give me the address. Daddy will look for you. Daddy will look for you. Daddy? Those 2 words seemed to have been in her life for a very, very long time. At the same time they were late. The sudden arrival left Yu Lily at a loss. She couldn't accept it. It was something to be happy about, but at that moment, Yu Lily couldn't stop her tears from flowing. Sitting on the sofa, Yu Lily stared at the row of words on the phone screen and suddenly burst into tears. There had been no warning. She didn't even know what she was crying about. But the emptiness in her heart could only be filled by crying like that. The sound of her unbridled crying was very loud in the empty villa. Yu Lily cried as she called Ming. The call was quickly answered. Ming seemed busy on the other end. The voice was a little noisy. Hello. Ming's voice came through. His unique voice was magnetic and charming. When Yu Lily heard that voice, she felt even more wronged. She sobbed and called out, "Hubby?" Ming was in a meeting. The company's top management was reporting on the first quarter of the year. When Ming heard the crying on the other end of the line, his heart skipped a beat. He stood up abruptly and asked, "What's wrong?" The voice of the company executive stopped abruptly. "Oh." Yu Lily was sobbing so hard that she couldn't even form a complete sentence. Ming's expression was grave. He turned around and walked out quickly. "Where are you?" he asked. As he spoke, he had already disappeared, leaving the people in the conference room looking at each other, not knowing what to do next. He quickly rushed home. When he opened the door, he saw Yu Lily sitting on the sofa in a daze. Her eyes were red and so was her nose. It was obvious that she had been crying. Ming strode forward and pulled her into his arms. He asked in a low voice, "What's wrong? What happened?" Ming. Yu Lily buried her face in his arms and said, "The paternity test results are out." Chapter 1365. Yu Lily laughed when she heard Ming's words. She looked up at him with a pair of watery eyes and said, "I found my father." Ming was stunned. He looked at her and asked, "Who is it?" "It's ding dong." Before Yu Lily could finish her sentence, the doorbell rang. Ming ignored it. He looked down at Yu Lily and asked in a low voice, "Who is it?" "Is here." Yu Lily looked toward the door. Ming frowned. After he released her, he strode toward the door. When he opened the door, he saw Wen Fenglin. Ming was shocked. "Uncle Wen." Wen Fenglin's eyes were slightly red under his round-rimmed glasses, but the dimples on his cheeks showed that he was in a good mood. "Where's Lily?" Before Ming could speak, a voice came from inside. "I'm here." Yu Lily's voice wasn't soft. Soon, Ming heard the sound of footsteps running out from inside. Wen Fenglin looked inside. At the same time, Yu Lily could see what was going on. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Ming was baffled. He had only been at work for one morning. Why had the two of them become like this? Come in and have a seat." Yu Lily waved at Wen Fenglin and quickly pulled Ming in. "Do you want something to drink?" she asked. "No, I'm just here to see you." Wen Fenglin walked in and sat down on the sofa. His eyes were fixed on Yu Lily. "Lily, I really didn't expect this." As he spoke, his eyes reddened. He lowered his head. "So Sienna left me a child. She's such a beautiful and adorable daughter. I really didn't expect this." Yu Lily saw that he was moved. She lowered her head and chuckled. "I didn't expect that the uncle painter that I've always respected would actually be my father." As father and daughter spoke, their eyes reddened. They looked at each other and smiled. The atmosphere was just warm. Ming stood beside them and smiled silently. Everything that happened next seemed to be a matter of course. Wen Fenglin had bought a house near Kingstown. It wasn't big, with 2 bedrooms and a living room. It was enough for him and his daughter. When the news got out, everyone knew that the vagrant painter Wen Fenglin had finally chosen a place to settle down. Many old friends from previous years sent their congratulations. Just as they were about to check in, Wen Fenglin even held a banquet. The purpose of the banquet was not only to celebrate that he was no longer a vagabond, but more importantly to introduce his daughter to the outside world. Looking at the aunties and uncles around her who were obviously very familiar with Wen Fenglin, Yu Lily didn't shy away. She greeted them with a smile and introduced herself. "My name is Wen Lily." In May, the temperature in the imperial capital was much lower than in the south. By the time Ming, Yu Lily and Wen Fenglin got off the plane, it was already evening. The weather was a little chilly. Although old Mrs. Shun was getting on in years, she was still very playful. When she saw them from afar, she jumped up and shouted, "Lily, Lily, Grandma is here." Hearing the old lady's voice, Yu Lily smiled, waved at her, and quickly ran toward her. Chapter 1366. Old Mrs. Shun patted Yu Lily up and down. Her smile deepened as she said, "You've finally put on some weight. Wow, you're so pretty. This child is blessed." As she spoke, old Mrs. Shin noticed the 2 men behind Yu Lily. When she saw Ming, it was fine. When she saw Wen Fenglin, she snorted and said, "You're lucky, you brat. You actually got such a good deal. Oh, I like Yu Lily so much. If only Yu Lily was our granddaughter." When Yu Lily heard that, she held onto old Mrs. Shin's arm and blinked. "Am I not now?" Old Mrs. Shin's face lit up. Yes. Let's go. Grandma will take you to dinner. Are you hungry?" I'm hungry. The airplane food sucks. Yu Lily held onto old Mrs. Shen's arm and smiled sweetly. She turned around and waved at the two men behind her. Daddy, oh, hurry up. Hey, your daddy has a name, but when it comes to your husband it becomes oh. Can't you be a little more fair? Oming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He still pulled the suitcase and followed behind them. Slow down. Slow down? I haven't even said anything. Come on, Julia is waiting outside. Old Mrs. Shen patted Yu Lily's hand and whispered, come sleep at my place tonight. Spend the night with me. Yu Lily chuckled and agreed happily. Sure. Old Mrs. Shen was delighted. She held onto Yu Lily's arm even more affectionately. Come on, Grandma will take you to eat roast duck. Shen Julia's car was huge. It was a 6-seater Lincoln stretch limousine. After they got into the car, old Mrs. Shen pulled Yu Lily to the back and told her about the recent happenings. Oming had just finished putting his luggage in and was about to sit beside Fenglin when he heard the person in front say, Oming, you sit in front. Shen Julia glanced at the rearview mirror and said casually, I have something to talk to you about. Oming raised his eyebrows and smiled. It seemed like he had come with ill intentions. But Oming had no reason to be afraid. He slammed the door and sat in the passenger seat. Shen Julia started the car and asked, when is the wedding? Soon, at the end of the month. Oming glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. He felt a sense of superiority as a victor. I think I sent you an invitation. Didn't you receive it? The relaxed expression on Shen Julia's face faded as he replied, I didn't see it. I threw it away. Oh, we're planning to have a child. But my wife's health isn't very good, so I brought her to the capital to relax. I heard that there's a temple here in the capital that's very efficacious, so I came to take a look and climb the mountain to pray. My wife has been talking about you recently. She said that you're a really good person. She's very happy to be friends with you, Oming said with a smile as if it was no big deal. It sounded like he was praising Shen Julia, but every single word he said was asking for a beating. Shen Julia pursed his lips and tightened his masseter muscles. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was a mistake to let him sit here. Even when this guy wasn't blind, he was still asking for a beating. Is that so? Congratulations. Chapter 1367. It's nothing. I just don't want you to sit with your father-in-law. Shen Julia's voice wasn't loud. As he spoke, he raised his eyebrows provocatively at Oming. Oming chuckled. Why are you so annoying? Compared to you, I'm nothing. Shen Julia drove to a famous roast duck restaurant in the capital. After letting them in first, Shen Julia parked the car and followed them in. Fenglin and old Mrs. Shen hadn't seen each other in a long time. The moment they met, they started talking about Fenglin's younger days. When one was young, his looks were impeccable. When he stood with Sienna, they were a perfect match. Yu Lily listened with great interest as she ate. She nodded her head from time to time. Her vague impression of her mother was starting to clear up. After dinner, Oming subconsciously wanted to take Yu Lily to find a hotel. Who knew that Yu Lily and old Mrs. Shen would end up staying at the Shen residence together? The Shen residence was huge and there were many guest rooms. Old Mrs. Shen pulled Yu Lily to her room and announced where she would be staying that night. Oming, on the other hand, carried his luggage to the room that the servant had prepared for him and settled down. Fenglin was at ease. When he saw his daughter and son-in-law behaving like that, he smiled happily. After confirming where they would be staying, Yu Lily wasn't in a hurry to sleep. Old Mrs. Shen happily led her around. They walked to the square that old Mrs. Shen frequented. There were many people around old Mrs. Shen's age playing music. The crowd had dispersed and the old ladies were sitting around chatting. Grandma, do you do square dancing as well? Yu Lily was a little surprised. Old Mrs. Shen replied proudly, you'll know when you see it. As she spoke, she walked over to the group of old ladies and waved her hand. Sisters, I've brought my adopted granddaughter to see you. Yu Lily couldn't help but smile when she saw old Mrs. Shen's expression. She walked over and greeted them obediently. Hello, grannies. My name is Lily. Oh, you're Lily? Old Mrs. Shen keeps mentioning you. You look so pretty. Are you from the south? You're so pretty. Hey, do you have a boyfriend? I have a grandson at home and he's very handsome. Go away, how can your grandson be called handsome? Our son is the handsome one. Lily, do you want to have tea with Grandma and get to know each other? The old ladies were all very enthusiastic. Yu Lily's smile widened as she said, I'm already married. My husband has also come to the capital. Wow, you're getting married at such a young age? Are you 22? Aya, you young people are so impatient. Do you have children now? When are you planning to have children? Yu Lily was embarrassed. Are these questions that a stranger should ask? Old Mrs. Shun was a little displeased and said, "Shoo shoo shoo. I brought my dear granddaughter here to watch us dance." As she spoke, she looked at Lily and continued, "Don't underestimate us old folks just because we're old. We're very nimble. Come on, let's dance for you to see." Great. Yu Lily clapped her hands in support of him. Old Mrs. Shun turned on the music. The old ladies were very proud of their dance moves. They quickly lined up. Chapter 1368. The old ladies were all wearing elegant spring dresses. The embroidery, muslin, and satin on them were all very Chinese. As the music started, the old ladies' movements began to sway. Their movements were soft and beautiful. They looked gentle, but they were firm and resilient. The 7 or 8 old ladies stood together and began to move in unison. It was very different from the square dances that Yu Lily had seen before. How is this square dance? This is Chinese classical dance. The old ladies' movements weren't as gentle, but they were still very graceful. The night wind blew gently. The trees on both sides swayed gently and rustled. The wind lifted the elegant clothes of the old ladies. It was a beautiful sight. There were many onlookers. When they saw the old ladies dance, many of them picked up their phones to take videos. When the dance was over, applause rang out like raindrops. Yu Lily was also amazed. She applauded sincerely. "It's so beautiful. I didn't know Grandma was so amazing." Old Mrs. Shun was elated by the praise and replied, "Of course. Why else do you think Grandma's health is so good?" No wonder Grandma is not only in good health but she also looks beautiful." Yu Lily held old Mrs. Shun's arm and giggled. Old Mrs. Shun was overjoyed. "You're such a sweet talker. Yeah, Grandma, let's go home." Yu Lily looked at the time and said, "It's already 9 o'clock. You should go back to sleep." "Why are you sleeping so early? Come, Grandma will take you to eat skewers." Pfft. Yu Lily almost choked. "Grandma, that's not good for your health. You should eat less." "Hey, are you looking down on me?" "No, I just feel that you should continue to maintain your beauty. Eating this junk food will hinder your beauty." Old Mrs. Shun deliberately kept a straight face, but she couldn't help but laugh. All right. I'm going back. I'm leaving. You guys enjoy yourselves." The surrounding old ladies waved at old Mrs. Shun and said, "Come over early tomorrow night. We'll teach your granddaughter how to dance." Okay. Yu Lily waved at them. "Goodbye, Grandma." The square wasn't far from the Shun residence, so they arrived quickly. Yu Lily held old Mrs. Shun's arm as they walked in. The first person she saw in the living room was Shinjilia, followed by Shinjilia's brother, Shinluo An. At the same time, Shinluo An's gaze was also directed at her. It was like a sharp X-ray suddenly attacking her. Yu Lily was shocked. "Grandma, you're back." Although he was speaking to old Mrs. Shun, his eyes were fixed on Yu Lily. "Is this Uncle Wen's daughter, Wen Lily?" Old Mrs. Shun's eyes were fixed on Yu Lily. Wow. Old Mrs. Shun looked at him as if he already knew the answer and said, "They will be staying at home for the next few days. You should stay at your villa." Shinluo and smiled when he heard that. "There are guests at home, so of course I have to accompany them. How can I stay in the villa? By the way, Manting is back today." She paused and her eyes fell on Shinluo An's face. Yu Lily didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that Shinluo An's expression was somewhat sinister. Shinluo An was not kind to her. In other words, it was as if he did not welcome her presence. Chapter 1369. Shinluo An's words had a deeper meaning. As he spoke, he looked at Yu Lily, but he quickly looked away. When old Mrs. Shin heard Shinluo An's words, she became unhappy and said, "Lily and Ming are my guests." "I know," Shinluo An replied nonchalantly. He stood up and said, "Rest early, Grandma. It's getting late." As Shinluo An spoke, he walked inside. Old Mrs. Shin huffed and held onto Yu Lily's arm. "Don't mind him. He's always been weird. It's been a few years, but he hasn't changed. So, it's all that woman's fault." Yu Lily seemed to have heard the main point. She looked at old Mrs. Shin and asked, Who else could it be?" "It's," old Mrs. Shin said. She quickly stopped and said, "Sai, this is a family matter. If you know, it will only add to your troubles. Lily, do you want to take a shower first?" Old Mrs. Shin didn't want to talk about it, so Yu Lily didn't press her further. When she heard old Mrs. Shin change the subject, she nodded her head and asked, "Where is Ming's room? I'll go there to take a shower." "All right, go ahead. Remember to look for me when you're done." Old Mrs. Shun led her to the room that had been arranged for O Ming and reluctantly walked away. Yu Lily knocked on the door to indicate that she was going in. She turned the knob. The knob turned, but it didn't budge. The door was locked from the inside. Yu Lily knocked on the door and called out, "Honey, are you inside? Open the door." There was no response. Just as Yu Lily took out her phone and was about to call O Ming, she heard the door open. It was dark inside. The lights weren't on. Shen Luo, Anne's face quickly appeared behind the door. He looked at Yu Lily with interest. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "Miss Wen, are you looking for me?" Yu Lily was stunned and instinctively took a step back. She didn't know why, but every time she saw Shen Luo, she felt an inexplicable sense of danger. Yu Lily wasn't in a hurry to leave. She looked into the darkness and asked, "Isn't this the room arranged for O Ming? Where is O Ming?" Shen Luo seemed to laugh. He said softly, "I don't know if O Ming was inside or not, but I'm inside now. If you want to come in, I don't mind." These words were said slowly and frivolously. Yu Lily frowned in disgust, but she still said politely, "I'm sorry. Maybe I got the wrong room. I'll leave now." "Do you need me to take you, Miss Wen?" "No." Yu Lily's voice was a little shrill, and the disgust in her heart increased. Very quickly Yu Lily realized that she had overreacted. She said, "I'll look for it myself. Thank you, Mr. Shin." As she spoke, Yu Lily quickened her pace. She looked like she was about to flee. Shen Luo looked at Yu Lily's back and chuckled. His eyes were filled with malice. Shen Luo closed the door and turned to walk inside. He asked the darkness in front of him, "Am I that scary? O Ming's wife seems to be afraid of me, and so are you." Chapter 1370. Shen Luo stepped forward. He looked a little sad. He walked around the king-sized bed and pulled Shin Manting over with his big hands that smelled of disinfectant. Shin Manting bit her lower lip. She didn't speak or make a sound. She closed her eyes and looked like she had accepted her fate. "I was wondering why you came to this empty room dressed like this. So this is O Ming's room?" He grabbed her arm with one hand and slowly slid down her face with the other. His fingertips moved from her cheeks to her neck, and then to her proud snow-white peaks. Shen Luo's face was slowly dyed with lust. At the same time, his malevolence deepened. Shin Manting was only wearing a long lace dress. Although the room was very dark, the view in front of her was not covered by the darkness. It was beautiful. Shen Luo had never seen Shin Manting dressed like this. But Shin Manting's attire today wasn't for him to see. He is already married. Why are you seducing him? If you have such thoughts, you might as well think about how to please me. Do you think that I will let you go if you seduce O Ming? Shen Luo gritted his teeth. Unless you die, otherwise don't even think about escaping. Shin Manting's mouth was covered and tears flowed down. She should be in pain and she should be resisting, but she shamefully felt happy. After a long time, everything calmed down. Shin Manting was still pressed down, but her mouth had been released. She laughed sarcastically. You don't like people touching your things. What about your wife? Have you touched them yourself? Shen Luo's body had not yet been pulled away. When he heard this, he propped himself up slightly and looked at her. What do you mean? Do you know that Yi Yuyu has a man outside? When Shen Luo heard that, he immediately thought of the man he saw next to Yi Yuyu's apartment last time. That man's relationship with Yi Yuyu was indeed a little different. But that was only if Yi Yuyu was willing to accept it. Yi Yuyu had been stubborn since she was a child. She would not easily let go of what she had set her mind on. Since she was married to him, she would be honest. He knew Yi Yuyu as well as he knew Shin Manting. You want to distract me? Can't you find a better reason? Do you think that Yi Yuyu is dead set on you? Shin Manting sounded very disdainful. In fact, do you know how many men she has had? Do you know how good Qin Jiufan is to her now, the most popular male star? What kind of reason do you think a man would treat a woman well? Qin Jiufan was currently in the limelight because he was the male lead of The Lonely Swordsman. The man was indeed good-looking, but would Yi Yuyu fall for him? Shen Luo chuckled. What are you suspecting? You think there's something going on between them? How do you think she got the second female lead in such a popular TV series? With her previous fame, it's impossible for her to get that kind of role. Isn't that enough to explain the problem? Shen Luo opened his eyes and stared at Shin Manting. The boss of NC Entertainment, Li Xiqing's brother, someone, saw them coming out of the hotel room. With Shin Manting's words, Shen Luo remembered the scene he had seen in the hospital. The way Li Jinan treated Yi Yuyu was indeed different. Could it be that they, Shin Luo, and gritted his teeth and propped himself up? He flipped the person under him over and entered her mercilessly with great force. Shin Manting clenched her teeth. Their voices were almost inaudible in the room. All that was left was the sound of him gritting his teeth and growling. Please, be gentle, don't, Shin Luo, and seemed to have heard nothing. After releasing her, he threw her to the side and stood up. Shin Manting was finally released. She heard the sound of a metal belt buckle behind her. Then she heard the door being opened and slammed. Chapter 1371. Finally, he's gone, but with Shin Luo and gone, Shin Manting's heart became even emptier. In the darkness, the smell of decay filled her nose. Shin Manting lay on the soft bed, and tears flowed silently from the corner of her eyes. I'll go find Yu. I've had enough of this kind of life. Yu Lily's footsteps were hurried. When she turned around and saw that Shin Luo and had already returned to his room, she breathed a sigh of relief. She picked up the phone and called Ming. The call was quickly answered. Ming sounded energetic. Obviously he hadn't slept yet. Hubby, where are you? Ming was very quiet on the other end. Soon his magnetic voice was heard. I'm at the office. You can sleep with Granny Shin tonight. I'll sleep in the office. Yu Lily was still in shock. When she heard Ming's voice, she felt wronged. Why didn't you tell me? I just went to knock on the door and it was Shin Luo, and who opened it? It scared me to death. Oh, didn't you go to play with Granny Shin? I didn't want to spoil your fun. After all, Shin Manting used to be my fiancé. I didn't think it was good for us to live under the same roof, so I came to the office to work overtime. Ming rarely explained in this way. After he said it, even he felt that he had said too much. Let's go hiking tomorrow. Well? Yu Lily pouted and said, then come and pick me up tomorrow. Okay. Ming chuckled. Go to sleep. It's getting late. I still have some work to do, so I can't talk to you anymore. Sleep early. Don't stay up too late. Yes, my dear wife. Hearing Ming's relaxed and cheerful tone, Yu Lily's originally nervous mood suddenly relaxed. She called out, hubby, good night. Okay. The next day Ming came early. He drove an Audi A8 with the capital license plate. It was 8 o'clock in the morning when he arrived at the Shin residence. Yu Lily had just woken up when she received a call from Ming. She quickly took the time to wash up. By the time she was done, half an hour had passed. When she went out, Ming was sitting in the dining room eating breakfast. When he saw Yu Lily come out, his originally expressionless face softened and he waved at her. Yu Lily quickly walked toward him and looked at the breakfast dishes. There were steamed buns and side dishes as well as dry noodles and millet porridge. Yu Lily was a typical southerner. She had no appetite when she saw the food. It's all right. Ming handed over the steamed bun that he had taken a bite of. Want some? Yu Lily turned her head away with a look of disgust. The servant quickly asked, Miss Wen, what would you like to eat? You of. I'll have the millet porridge, thank you, Yu Lily said. She turned around and asked, where's my father? Wen went. And Mr. Xiao. The Ming Shen, the servant said of one. The servant said while scooping porridge, our young master will be back soon. He will be your tour guide. Where do you want to go? Wait for our young master to come back and then go together. Yu Lily nudged Ming and said, why don't we go by ourselves? It's not good to have Shinjilia be our tour guide. Chapter 1372. That was what Ming was thinking. Let Shinjilia go with them? It would be better for them to explore on their own. However, they still had to eat breakfast. Let's eat first. There's nothing we can do if we run into them. Yu Lily took the millet porridge from the servant and took a sip. It's so hot. Drink slowly. There's no hurry. Ming took her bowl and handed her a napkin. Yu Lily agreed, but she continued to eat the porridge. Just as Yu Lily was halfway through her meal, the sound of high heels came from inside. Shin Manting came out. She had delicate makeup on her face and was wearing the latest spring dress of a famous brand. The beautiful pink dress accentuated Shin Manting's figure. Especially the silk scarf around her neck, it looked very tasteful. When Shin Manting saw Ming, her eyes darkened. When she saw Yu Lily, her expression didn't change. When Yu Lily saw Shin Manting, her eyes subconsciously fell on the scarf. Then she lowered her head and ate the porridge. Shin Manting washed her hands and walked to the dining table. She picked up a steamed bun and ate it slowly. From beginning to end, she didn't say hello to Ming and his wife. It was as if they didn't exist. After Yu Lily finished the porridge, she pulled Ming's sleeve and said, Honey, let's go first. Honey, when Shin Manting heard the way he addressed her, she froze for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. Oming noticed the slight change in Shin Manting. He already knew what Yu Lily was thinking, but he was very cooperative and said, well, okay. When the couple walked out, Yu Lily breathed a sigh of relief and said, it's so embarrassing. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have listened to Grandma and lived here. I don't like anyone here. Shin Manting did, and so did Shin Luo. But Shin Jilia didn't live here. Fortunately, Shin Longyue and his wife were traveling around the world and not in the capital. Otherwise, it would have been even more embarrassing. Oming looked at her softly and asked, are you full? No. Yu Lily touched her belly and smacked her lips. Let's go buy something else to eat. The millet porridge is tasteless. Oming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Don't you know how to pair it with a side dish? The side dishes aren't that good either. I want to eat fruit pancakes. Let's go, I know a stall nearby that sells delicious pancakes. I'll bring you there. Yu Lily held onto Oming's arm in high spirits, but she quickly thought of something and said, I have to send a message to Shinjilia to tell him that he doesn't have to come and be our tour guide anymore. Hey, there's a message from Shinjilia. Shinjilia had already sent them a message 10 minutes ago. The hospital is a little busy today, so I can't leave. You guys have fun. I'll bring you guys out to play at night. When Yu Lily saw the message, she felt relieved and said, that's great. Let's go. We'll go by ourselves. She excitedly pulled Oming and ran. But after a few steps, she vaguely felt as if someone was watching them from behind. He turned around and saw Shin Manting standing at the door, staring at them. Yu Lily didn't know why, but she felt a little scared. An uncomfortable feeling immediately seeped out from the bottom of her heart, and her hair stood on end. Chapter 1373. Yu Lily quickly took Oming to the stall she used to go to. After buying something, Oming looked a little strange. With one look, Yu Lily knew that he was complaining that the stall was dirty. She stuffed the thing into his mouth and said, it's okay. I won't die. Oming took the thing and took a bite. How is it? Yu Lily looked at him expectantly, her eyes shining. Oming nodded his head. Not bad. I think so. I think it's delicious. Sigh, it's a pity that everything in the capital is congested. Even the subway is crowded. Otherwise, we could try taking the subway in the capital, Yu Lily said. Let's go. We can eat in the car. The couple looked at each other and smiled. They drove together in the direction of Hongluo Temple. The purpose of their visit was clear, to pray for a child. Naturally, the route was very straight. It was a weekday, so the road wasn't congested, but it still took more than an hour to get there. After parking the car, Yu Lily pulled Oming inside. Many young couples came and went, and there were also many old people and tourists coming and going. As one of the famous attractions in the capital, even on a weekday there were many people. Yu Lily pulled Oming along to pay his respects, and they quickly made their way inside. It was May and the wisteria flowers were in full bloom. The fragrance of the flowers filled the air, and the tourists coming and going were all taking photos with their phones. Yu Lily saw that they were very happy taking photos, so she picked up her phone and took a few photos. Oming looked at the photos she took and couldn't bear to look at them, so he looked away. This technique, Yu Lily saw Oming's expression and was a little unhappy. She pulled him over and said, take a few photos. Oming suddenly entered the picture and looked at the beauty effect on the phone screen. He frowned and asked, why is it so pink? A straight man like you won't understand. Come on, smile. Oming's lips twitched and Yu Lily took a photo. Oming and Yu Lily were both good-looking, especially photogenic. After taking the photo, Yu Lily looked left and right and said, it's really beautiful. They're a perfect match. Hey hubby, if I post this on WeChat, will people be envious of me? He knew that Yu Lily didn't like to post on WeChat, but occasionally he would inadvertently glance at her WeChat moments. There were a lot of likes and comments. Hearing this, Oming thought for a moment and said, I think so. I'm going to post it. Yu Lily posted the photo she had just taken and edited the caption, a day trip with my husband to Hongluo Temple. As soon as Yu Lily posted it, someone immediately liked it. Yu Lily was proud of herself and said, look, I'm so popular. Yu Lily clicked on her profile picture and glanced at her circle of friends. The latest one was last year. An exquisite French meal, a selfie with short hair, and a bright smile. The script was also very simple. A new hairstyle, a rare feast, I'm so happy. This was what she had posted on her WeChat moments last year, when she was preparing to commit suicide. It had never been updated. Yu Lily's heart was pounding, but she soon relaxed and smiled. At that time, how could she have imagined that she would marry O Ming? Now she had found her father and had her own family. Chapter 1374. Yu Lily's heart warmed a little. She sent the photo she had just taken to O Ming's WeChat, then patted him gently and said, "Give me your phone." O Ming was a little surprised. She never looked at his phone. Is she going to check on me? O Ming smiled and handed the phone to her. Do you want to catch us in the act? Yu Lily took it, rolled her eyes and said, "Catch you?" She downloaded the photo and clicked on O Ming's WeChat moments. O Ming didn't like to post anything. The latest post in his WeChat moments was, "Happy New Year." Before that was last year's Happy New Year. Before that was last year's Happy New Year. Yu Lily was speechless and said, "Hundreds of people liked and replied to such a boring post. The boss is really different." O Ming chuckled and hugged her. He looked down at the phone in her hand and asked, "What do you want to do?" Yu Lily sent the photo out and edited it in front of O Ming. "A day trip with my wife to Hongluo Temple." O Ming let her do what she wanted. He looked at the map and said, "Let's go to the mountain. I heard that the guanine on the mountain is more efficacious." "Didn't you say you didn't believe in that?" "Well, I'll believe it if you believe it." O Ming hugged her and walked forward. Yu Lily was a little excited as she looked at the new messages coming from O Ming's phone. "Look, they are praising me. Chairman Wang, handsome man and beautiful woman. KW Lu, it's rare to see O Ming's selfie. Is it from sister-in-law? IO Technology Miss Guan, it's so beautiful. I'm having fun." Yu Lily was very happy. She quickly put the phone away and followed O Ming up Guanyin Road with a smile. Step by step, Yu Lily was soon exhausted. She sat on the ground and panted. "No, I can't walk anymore. I'll carry you. Come up." "No," Yu Lily refused without thinking. Yu Lily refused without a second thought. "Your hand has finally recovered. If I press on it again, would I still be considered a human? Shall I carry you?" "No, I'll rest for a while." Yu Lily sat on the steps, panting, and her mind was full of thoughts. She asked, "O Ming, do you have any special regrets?" "Yes, there is." "What is it?" "I'll tell you when we get to the top. I heard that there's a very tall tower up there. Making wishes there is very efficacious." "Oh." Yu Lily was still unwilling to get up. "Give me a pull. I can't get up." O Ming smiled and scooped her up. He said, "You're so weak. How about we climb the Great Wall tomorrow to train?" "I'm not going." Yu Lily refused without a second thought. She dragged herself up the stairs. At the peak, the wind was very strong. A strong gust of wind blew on his body, sending a chill down his spine. Yu Lily hugged O Ming and shivered in the cold. She asked, "Tell me quickly. Make a wish first." O Ming didn't forget his purpose of coming here. Yu Lily was unwilling to let go of O Ming. She shouted down the mountain, "I want a child. I want to have a baby, to have a child, children." Yu Lily shouted again, "O Ming, I want to bear your child." O Ming hugged her and chuckled. "You've scared Guanyin away by shouting like that. It's your turn. Hurry up and shout." Yu Lily urged. "Guanyin won't wait for you. Hurry up and tell her." "Yes." O Ming hugged her and shouted, "I want to be with you, Lily, forever." After shouting, he hugged Yu Lily and didn't say another word. Yu Lily was anxious and said, "What about the child? Tell her that we want a child." Chapter 1375. What about children? It doesn't matter. As long as we are together, are you afraid that we won't have children? Yu Lily became even more anxious and said, "How can I not be afraid? Sure." O Ming stopped her from speaking. "Do you want to hear what my regret is?" "I want to, but you have to call for our child first," Yu Lily pleaded. "If you don't call for him, what if he doesn't listen to me and doesn't come?" "All right, how should I shout?" "That's right. Children of O Ming and Yu Lily, come here quickly. Daddy and Mommy need you. Daddy loves you. No matter what I did wrong in the past, I know I was wrong. I beg you to come back quickly." Yu Lily's heart ached and she said, "They won't come back even if you call for them like that. If I'm really pregnant, it can't be twins. This is my greatest regret. My greatest regret is that my twin boys didn't have the chance to be born." Yu Lily felt a lump in her throat, and her eyes immediately turned red. "Are you cold? Let's go." "Yeah." Yu Lily held his arm, wiped her eyes and nodded. When Yu Lily and O Ming returned to the Shen residence, it was already very late. Old Mrs. Shen was drinking tea and chatting with Wen Fenglin and the others. When they returned, when Fenglin waved at Yu Lily and said, "Come here. Daddy wants to discuss something with you." Yu Lily blinked her eyes and quickly sat down beside Wen Fenglin. "Ming, come over here too." Wen Fenglin beckoned him over. Ming and Yu Lily were equally surprised. It wasn't often that Wen Fenglin addressed them so seriously. "Dad, what's wrong?" Ming sat down on the sofa and looked at Wen Fenglin with confusion. Old Mrs. Shen smiled and said, "Aren't you guys going to have your wedding soon? I heard from your father that it's on the 9th of next month. It's already the end of the month and the 9th happens to be the 18th day. According to the customs of the Wuxia Empire, a man and a woman are not allowed to see each other for half a month before their wedding. For the next 10 days, Lily can stay in the capital. Anyway, you finished your business for the day." Wen Fenglin was of the same mind. He nodded his head and said, "I'll hang out with Lily in the capital for the time being. Ming, you can also go back and prepare for the wedding. The timing is just right." "No. I don't think it's a good idea." Yu Lily and Ming spoke at the same time. Both of them had the same meaning. Old Mrs. Shen took Yu Lily's hand in rebuke and said, "There's a reason why our ancestors passed down this custom. The son and daughter-in-law of the Zhang family next door don't believe in this. They're quarreling every day. Not too long ago they even lost their child. You can't ignore this nonsense. Furthermore, the two of you have been together for so long. It's good for you to be apart for a while. Don't you agree, Wen?" "Any Shin is right. Lily, listen to Daddy and Grandma. Daddy and Grandma will not harm you." However, Ming was very determined and said, "No way." Chapter 1376. Yu Lily had heard of this custom, but she had never imagined that her father and Granny Shen would put it into practice. I won't be able to see Ming for more than 10 days straight?" Yu Lily was a little reluctant. "How am I going to get through so many days? What era are we in? Do you still believe in such things?" Ming's attitude was very firm. "No way. I'm going back and my wife is going back with me. The wedding is just a formality. Our relationship as husband and wife is very good." At the same time, Yu Lily was thinking the same thing. She nodded her head and said, "Granny, this is an old saying. Which young person still believes in such things? Furthermore, half a month is too long." "It's not that long. When old Shen and I first got married, he was out doing business every day. We were often apart for a year and a half at a time. Don't talk about how long it's been. You've only been apart for half a month. Besides, there's a saying that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Your relationship will only get better in the future." "Lily, listen to Grandma," Wen Fenglin said. "During this period of time, Daddy will accompany you to have some fun in the capital. Isn't Ming's company very busy recently?" "Ming's father has been very busy lately. It's time for you to go back and share some of the burden with your father." When Yu Lily heard that, she fell silent. Indeed, Ming had been spending less time at the company recently. Most of the time, he had been accompanying her. Although Ming's mother hadn't said it out loud, she was definitely unhappy about it. What was the point of spending all day with a woman instead of managing such a big company? When Ming saw that she seemed to be wavering, he became even more displeased and said, Yu Lily looked at him and said, "My surname isn't Yu anymore." Ming was used to calling her that. When she said that, he was at a loss for words. Yu Lily thought about it and said, "I think Daddy is right. Your father is getting on in years. If he gets too busy, it won't be good. You should go back first. You can set up the company first before I go back." "No way." Ming refused without hesitation. "What era are we in? Why are you still so superstitious?" Ming's attitude was very firm. Yu Lily's heart wavered, but she was eventually persuaded by the elders. While they were discussing, the servants had finished preparing dinner. As they sat down at the table, Shin Manting returned home from work. After washing their hands, they sat together to eat. Yu Lily was a little embarrassed. After all, the relationship between them was somewhat complicated. Shin Manting could be considered as her rival in love. Therefore, Yu Lily didn't say anything and just kept eating with her head down. Old Mrs. Shin seemed a little dissatisfied and asked, "Where is Luo En? Why haven't you come out for dinner yet?" The servant heard this and said, "Young master went out last night and hasn't come back yet." "What about Jilia? Why isn't he back yet?" "Young master just called back and said that there are more patients today, so he can't come back. He might have to work overtime, so he asked you to eat first." Old Mrs. Shen was even more displeased. She glanced at Shin Manting and asked, "Why isn't Luo En back yet? Do you know where he went?" Shin Manting had been silent since the beginning. When she heard old Mrs. Shen's question, she wiped the corners of her mouth with a napkin and said, "He probably went to Kingstown. The new book will be released to everyone tomorrow." Book title, 99 Times Over the Wall, Hubby Can't Help It Introduction, I'll kiss you wherever you kiss me. She accidentally kissed his crotch and he put a bounty of 1 million on her head. On the surface, he was a cold-hearted young master who was loyal to the country. But in secret he was a mysterious king of the underworld. She calculated step by step and cheated him of all his furs. Then she left all his assets and ran away. Who knew that the next day she would be brought to the church with a knife? He announced, "Marry me or die." "Marry me. I'll marry you." Dash. Chapter 1377. Why did you go to Kingstown? Why didn't you tell your family? Old Mrs. Shen was even more displeased. "Did you go to find Yu? Shen Manting nodded. "I guess so." "That's good. Divorce her quickly, and then I'll arrange your marriage for you," old Mrs. Shen said. As old Mrs. Shen spoke, she focused on eating her food. It was as if what she was talking about was no big deal. Yu Lily paused in the middle of eating and looked up at Shen Manting. Shen Manting seemed to lower her head. Yu Lily didn't know if it was an illusion, but she seemed to see a strange expression on Shen Manting's face. "Well, I'm full." Shen Manting stood up. Old Mrs. Shen glanced at her bowl and frowned. "You only ate so little? Even a cat eats more than you do." "Well, I haven't been feeling well recently and I can't eat much. I'm going back to my room to work, Grandma," Shen Manting said as she turned to leave. Old Mrs. Shen was even more displeased. "Work, work, all you know is work. You'd better keep an eye on Shen Luo. This child runs around all day, and the people from the research department call every day to find him. You should tell him to pay attention to himself. In this family he will listen to you." When Shen Manting heard that, she felt a little sarcastic. "Will Shen Luo and listen to me? How is that possible? Shen Luo and only listens to himself. Everything else is just a plaything." "She is, and so is Yi Yu." But Shen Manting still nodded and said, "Got it." With that, she walked in the direction of her room. Old Mrs. Shen looked at Shen Manting and sighed faintly. She said, "When I took a fancy to this child, I thought she would have fate with our family, but I didn't expect it to be fate with Shen Luo Han. Anyway, Shen Luo and Yi Yu are not fated to be together. I can only let Shen Manting marry Shen Luo Han. I think this child is also blessed." This child's life carried a baleful aura. This baleful aura not only affected her, but even the people around her would be affected by her. But once this evil will pass, the Shen family will definitely be connected to Shen Luo Han. Not only the Shen family but Shen Manting herself will also be safe for a lifetime. But if she can't endure love, old Mrs. Shen knew this. She could see her destiny but she could not see through it. Old Mrs. Shen wasn't sure if Shen Manting's evil spirit had passed or not. Come to think of it, he should have passed, right? After all, the last time she tried to commit suicide by swallowing toiletries, it was already a disaster. Old Mrs. Shen frowned and lowered her head to eat. When Feng Lin heard old Mrs. Shen's words, he asked, "Isn't this girl your granddaughter? To marry your grandson they've been together for a long time. I don't know what possessed Luo Han. In the past he always wanted to marry Yi Yu, but after they got married he ignored her. Later on he got together with Manting." This matter caused quite a stir at the time. "Lily should know about it, right?" Yu Lily heard that and nodded. "I know. That's right. Forget it. Children and grandchildren have their own blessings. Let's wait for him to tell us. Let's eat." Yu Lily had other ideas in mind. According to Yi Qianqian, Shen Luo and hated Yi Yu very much. His attitude was terrible. What was he going to do in Kingstown? Chapter 1378. After dinner, Yu Lily slept with old Mrs. Shen as usual. O Ming went to the office of the branch company in the capital to rest up. He gave Yi Qianqian a call. Yi Qianqian seemed to be very free, so she answered quickly. "Oh my beautiful Lily, didn't you go out with your husband today? Why do you have time to call me?" Yi Qianqian's eyes were glued to the computer. She was working overtime. "Is your sister around?" Yu Lily asked. Yu Yu isn't back yet. Why are you looking for her?" Yi Qianqian looked at the time. "It's only 7 o'clock now. Yu has been home a little late for the past 2 days. I don't know what she's doing out there." "Shen Luo and seems to have gone to Kingstown. If you see your sister, tell her that he's probably going to Kingstown to look for her." "Ha!" Yi Qianqian was a little surprised to hear that, but she quickly reprimanded him and said, "Don't worry. Shen Luo and might look for anyone, but he would never look for Yu. Shenluo, and has a lot of friends. Perhaps he went to look for his friends. Yu's phone number has already been changed. There's no way he would be able to find her. Hearing that, Yu Lily felt a little relieved and said, "That's good. I heard that her relationship with Shenluo and isn't very good. Didn't I come to the capital recently? I saw him and I felt a little weird." "Why did he feel weird? Do you think he's very fierce?" When Yi Qianshan thought of Shenluo, and she became angry and said, "That guy is just like that. He's weird. I suspect he's mentally ill." Even when Yu was hospitalized, he would peek at her from the door of the ward. Peek at her? Yu Lily felt her hair stand on end. She felt a wave of disgust. That can't be. Isn't Shinjilia quite normal? He's fine. Why is his brother so weird? Yu Lily didn't dare speak loudly. After all, they were still in the Shin family. If the Shin family heard her bad-mouthing someone so openly, it would be embarrassing. She replied, "Who knows? Sigh, to think Shinjilia is a psychiatrist. Didn't he realize that his brother was mentally ill? I reckon that even if he finds out, Shenluo, and won't say anything to Shinjilia. Shinjilia lives outside and doesn't live with his family." As Yu Lily spoke, she felt that she was being a little too nosy. She quickly changed the topic and said, "I've already conveyed the message to him. You'd better let your sister know so that she'll be mentally prepared if he really goes looking for trouble with her. I'll go take a shower first. Grandma is still waiting for me to sleep." "All right, go ahead." As Yi Qianshan spoke, she suddenly chuckled and said, "You have to be careful. Don't let his grandmother take advantage of you." *CK, you think too much. I'm hanging up. Bye-bye. Yi Qianshan heard Yu Lily hang up the phone. She stared at the computer screen and let out a long sigh. She stretched her back and quickly picked up the phone to call Yi Yu's new number. Yi Yu seemed to be a little busy. After a few rings, she finally picked up the phone. "Hello, Yu. Where are you?" "I'm preparing to go back." "Okay. All right. Lily just called me and told me that Shenluo and is in Kingstown. You have to be careful. He might come looking for trouble." Chapter 1379. When Yi Qianshan heard Yi Yu's words, her heart skipped a beat. No way. She didn't get a response from Yi Yu. Instead, she heard the busy tone on the other end of the line. "Shenluo," and looked at the caller on the screen. He raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "It's still this person. Did she teach you? You changed your phone number and address. Luckily you haven't changed your job." Yi Yu's expression darkened even more. She had come to Kingstown to start a new life. Her husband, her past, and everything about her had become unsightly. She had thought that even if she died in Kingstown, Shenluo and wouldn't care or ask about it. She had changed her phone number and moved in with Yi Qianshan only to avoid harassment from her former classmates and gossip reporters. Because the injury on her arm hadn't fully recovered, Yi Yu hadn't been able to film at all. Therefore, she had found a job with her good friend and manager Mira to do odd jobs. She had never imagined that Shenluo and would come all the way from the capital to Kingstown just to look for her. Furthermore, he had come all the way to the office. Yi Yu looked at the man in front of her with a sinister expression. It was obvious that he wasn't a kind person. Her heart ached. It had been a long time since she had seen him. Shenluo and looked even thinner. But none of this had anything to do with her. Yi Yu looked at him and asked sarcastically, "Are you here to divorce me? Why didn't you just give me a call? I'll be back right away. Why did you have to trouble young Master Shin to come all the way here for nothing?" When Shenluo and heard that, his already ugly expression darkened even further. It was as if ink had been splashed on his face. Divorce. Shenluo and took a step forward and threw Yi Yu's cell phone on the floor with a loud clatter. He pinched Yi Yu's face and pushed her. Yi Yu's body collided with the tall stack of documents behind her. The documents were knocked over and fell onto the table. In the empty office, the sound was particularly loud. "You want to be with your lover after divorcing me?" He pinched Yi Yu's cheeks without any mercy. "Your lover treats you really well. Look at what you're wearing. TSK. A gemstone necklace, gemstone earrings, and such a coquettish dress. Yi Yu, you've gone to sell yourself, haven't you? How much a night? Do you want your husband to take care of your business?" Shenluo An's voice was not loud, but his words were enough to make a woman's eyes redden. Especially the man she had once loved deeply. Looking at the man in front of her, Yi Yu's eyes reddened. She struggled hard and her breathing became heavier. She shouted, "Are you crazy? Let go of me." "What do you want?" Not only did Shen Luo and not let go, but he squeezed her even tighter. I'm hugging my wife. I'm hugging my wife. Why should I let go? Shen Luo an. Shen Luo, and used a lot of strength. He laughed mockingly and said, or is it that I can't touch you now, so you want to keep your so-called chastity for your lover? Chapter 1380. These words again, these words again. Yi Yu's eyes reddened. The years of torture and the years of grievance had driven her to the brink of insanity. She tried to explain again and again to let him know that it wasn't her at all. But it was useless. It was useless. Yi Yu grabbed his hand with both hands and tried to pull it away, but Shen Luo and was too strong. She couldn't move him at all. Shen Luo, and this is NC Company, not your hospital and not the Shen family. I advise you to let go. If I don't call the security, you'll be embarrassed. Yi Yu's words were full of warning. Her original intention was for Shen Luo and to let go. But when those words fell into Shen Luo An's ears, it became a strong provocation. Not only did Shen Luo and not loosen his grip, but he tightened his grip. His masseter muscles tightened as he raised his other hand and slapped it hard on Yi Yu's face. Slap. The loud voice was even more ear-piercing in this quiet space. Yi Yu turned her head in disbelief and looked at Shen Luo an. Her eyes were full of disbelief. Her face was burning. The feeling was unfamiliar, but it was like it had drilled into her bones. It hurt so much that her whole body was twitching. Shen Luo An's eyes were red and he roared, "B*****. How dare you be so arrogant after cheating? You're so F***king B*****. As he spoke, his free hand lifted Yi Yu's skirt and touched her lower body. Yi Yu screamed and finally couldn't help but panic. She pressed his hand with both hands and shouted, Shen Luo an. Such an action was even more maddening in the eyes of a man. Shen Luo and clenched his teeth and sneered. He rubbed it hard and growled, I haven't even touched you and you have another man. B****. What are you doing? A loud voice interrupted Shen Luo An's words. Before Shen Luo An could turn around, his arm was held tightly. Yi Yu's heart calmed down. She turned her head gratefully and saw a familiar face. Ha, it's really you. Shen Luo An released Yi Yu and swung his fist at Li Jinan's clean face with all his might. Li Jinan had just finished his work and was holding a laptop in his hands. Out of the corner of his eye, Li Jinan caught a glimpse of Shen Luo An's fist coming toward him. The sharpness of a soldier suddenly burst forth, and he reflexively lifted the computer to block Shen Luo An's fist. Shen Luo An's punch missed and he was furious. He was about to punch again, but Li Jinan's skill was obviously better than his. She turned the laptop around and slammed it into Shen Luo An's face. Shen Luo An screamed in pain and immediately turned his face away. Li Jinan took the opportunity to twist the bones in his hand and pin him to the ground. Shen Luo An's hands were twisted, and his head was pressed to the ground by Li Jinan's laptop. He struggled for a while, then suddenly laughed. I've long heard that third young master Li has an extraordinary background. You're a retired major, but I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Of course Li Jinan knew this person. He narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, This is my company. I have no opinion on what you want to do with your wife, but you'd better change the venue. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll have to spend the night at the police station. Chapter 1381. Li Jinan turned his head and saw Yi Yu's swollen face. He frowned and asked, Did he really hit you? He seemed to have heard something, but he couldn't hear it clearly. He didn't expect that the man would really hit a woman. You're not a man. Li Jinan's tone was scornful. When Shen Luo An heard that, his masseter muscles tightened. He struggled even harder and said, Damn it. Let go of me. Let go of you? What do you want? Li Jinan had no intention of letting go. He handed the laptop to Yi Yu. Hold it for me. Yi Yu reached out to take it, but Shen Luo An took advantage of the moment when Li Jinan let go to suddenly flip over and sit up. He turned around and pushed Li Jinan hard. Li Jinan didn't react in time. When he was pushed away, his whole body fell backward. But he was a martial artist after all. Li Jinan's body staggered, but he quickly steadied himself and caught him. Shen Luo An's eyes were filled with indignation. He reached out and wanted to choke Li Jinan, but his hands were firmly locked behind his back. It was obvious that the strength and skills of the two were not on the same level. Shen Luo An's hands were twisted painfully. He sneered and said, Yi Yu, are you trying to murder your husband with your mistress? Mistress? Li Jinan frowned and tightened his grip. In a low voice he said, "Watch your mouth." Shenluo An's hands were locked behind his back. The pain made his face pale, but his expression became more sinister. He sneered and said, "You dare to do it, but you don't dare to let others talk about it?" The boss of NC Entertainment, the pride of the Li family, third young master Li, actually keeps a man with a woman. If this gets out, what do you think the consequences will be? Shenluo, and watch your mouth. GM Li and I don't have that kind of relationship. Don't think that everyone is as dirty as you. Yu was so angry that her face turned red. She shouted, "I don't know why you came to Kingstown. If you just came to humiliate me out of boredom, then congratulations. You've succeeded. Can you get out now?" Shenluo An's face darkened. He stared at Yu and said, "If it's not that kind of relationship, are you selling yourself for a job?" "Shut up." Li Jinan gritted his teeth and dragged him toward the elevator. "You are the young master of the Shen family in the capital. Have you lost your manners?" Li Jinan grabbed Shenluo, and then quickly made his way to the elevator. Yu grabbed Li Jinan's laptop and quickly followed him. She pressed the button for the elevator. "You have manners. Wait till your wife makes you a cuckold. Let's see if you still have that kind of manners." Shenluo An's lips seemed to be curling into a smile, but the malice and viciousness in it were completely exposed. "You're also a beast in human clothing. Otherwise, why would you sleep with someone else's wife?" That made Li Jinan even angrier. After they got out of the elevator, Li Jinan shoved Shenluo and forcefully and said, "She's your wife. What's in it for you to humiliate your wife like that? I don't have that kind of relationship with her." He looked at Li Jinan and raised his eyebrows. He tilted his head and looked at them. His gaze was indescribably sinister. That had better be the case. Otherwise no one will have an easy time. As he spoke he looked at Yu. "Come here, my wife." The new book, 99 Times Dating, Hubby Can't Help It, has been published and is awaiting review. It will be available to everyone in the morning. Chapter 1382. Although he was calling her his wife, there was no intimacy between them. Instead, there was an indescribable sense of malice. Li Jinan frowned. Judging from Shenluo An's expression, it was obvious that he had come with ill intentions. Yiyu's expression was one of resistance. She looked at him pleadingly and said, "Jim Li, help me. I beg you. I advise you to mind your own business. Since you have nothing to do with her, you'd better turn around and leave now." Shenluo and walked toward Yu. "Third young master Li, you don't have to worry about us." Yu stepped back and said, "Shenluo, and you weren't like this in the past. If you wanted to take revenge on me, you've already done it. What else do you want? Please let me go, please." Those words were naturally directed at Shenluo, but more importantly, they were directed at Li Jinan. Shenluo An's face darkened. He strode forward and grabbed Yuyu's hand. Before he could pull back, Shenluo felt a sharp pain in his arm. A hand had grabbed him. Li Jinan twisted his hand violently. Shenluo was caught off guard and he screamed in pain. "Go!" Li Jinan shouted. Yu didn't dare to stay any longer. She placed Li Jinan's laptop by the side of the clean flower bed and ran down the stairs like the wind. Shenluo An's hand was twisted, and his face was a little pale from the pain. He frowned and sneered, "Li Jinan, since you are not her lover, aren't you being too diligent in meddling in the family affairs of a married couple?" Li Jinan looked at Shenluo An. Li Jinan's face darkened. In a low voice he said, "Miss Yi is my employee. In my company I have to be responsible for her safety." He turned his head and saw that Yu had already walked far away. Only then did he release Shenluo An. He turned around to pick up the laptop by the side of the flower bed. Even after the confrontation with Shenluo, Li Jinan didn't show any signs of fatigue. His face wasn't red and he wasn't out of breath. In contrast, Shenluo looked a little worse for wear. It was no wonder that Yu would fall for such a man. But how could that be? Even if they said that there was nothing between them now, what about in the future? At the thought that Yu could accuse him of being a cuckold at any time, Shenluo An's heart felt as if it had been stuffed with a ball of cotton. He couldn't move it up or down. It was extremely uncomfortable. Shenluo looked at Li Jinan's back as he prepared to leave. He raised his leg and kicked him hard in the back. Li Jinan never expected Shenluo to launch such a sudden attack. Caught off guard, he fell straight down. As a soldier, Li Jinan subconsciously adopted a defensive posture. A 1. 9-meter-tall man rolling down a flight of stairs that was more than 10 stories high was no laughing matter. Li Jinan fell to the ground and gritted his teeth in pain. His face and body were burning with pain. He looked up and saw Shen Luo, and walking down with his laptop. He smashed it viciously at Li Jinan and said, "B*****. Serves you right." In the time it took Shen Luo and to walk down, Li Jinan had already recovered. He leaped up and caught Shen Luo, and on the ground. Shen Luo, and didn't expect this guy to be so tenacious. He was surprised, but he laughed and said, "I really underestimated you." That. Chapter 1383. What happened? The building's security guard finally ran out. When he saw the scratches on Li Jinan's face, his heart skipped a beat. "Jim Li this?" Li Jinan only glanced at him with a dark expression. He ignored him and said, "You underestimate a lot of things." He turned to look at the computer on the floor. The metal body of the computer was already a little twisted. It wasn't hard to imagine what the screen inside looked like. Liquid flowed down from his forehead, and Li Jinan's vision was quickly obscured. He wiped it with his hand and said, "How long do you think I'll be locked up for intentional assault and damage to personal property?" Shen Luo, and made up his mind and laughed coldly. "You dare to send me to the police station? See if I dare." Li Jinan pressed him down and turned to the security guard. "Get me a rope." The security guard felt guilty and quickly did as he was told. The police station was right next to the building. Li Jinan opened the door with familiarity and walked in. Very quickly the police inside looked over. One of the young police officers who looked a little too robust saw Li Jinan and quickly ran up to him. As soon as he walked in, he saw Li Jinan's appearance. He gasped and asked, "Third brother, did this guy do this?" The scratches on Li Jinan's body weren't serious, but they looked hideous. The police officer's heart ached for him and said, "Aya, such a handsome face. How can you be disfigured? Come over here and let me help you apply some medicine. Sunny, come and detain this guy." "Coming." Li Jinan shook his head and waved his hand. "There's no need." This kind of injury was nothing to Li Jinan. It was just a superficial scratch. "You damaged personal property and you even ambushed me and kicked me down the stairs. I'm afraid the computer can't be used anymore. You decide what to do." Li Jinan released him and touched his face. There wasn't any blood, but it hurt a little. Under such circumstances, his image wasn't going to be any better. All right. Leave it to me. Come, third brother, let me apply some medicine for you." Mo Yuanshan pulled Li Jinan and asked, "Who is this guy to do this? Is he tired of living?" "He's from the capital. His surname is Shen." "Oh." Mo Yuanshan didn't know what kind of famous people there were in the capital and who Shenjilia was, but from what Li Jinan said, it seemed like he was very powerful. "No matter what, in Kingstown, third brother, you don't have to be afraid of anyone." Mo Yuanshan cleaned Li Jinan's wound and asked, "By the way, is your older brother married? He's already 33 this year, right?" Li Jinan glanced at him and asked, "Why? Are you going to introduce someone to him?" "You even know that? That's amazing. I really have someone to introduce to him. Don't say that to me. Tell that to my older brother. My parents and grandpa are all rushing him." If he could be moved, he would have done it a long time ago. Li Jinan gasped. "Be gentle. Hey, what about you? I'm getting married next month. You have to come. You're already 29. You're not young anymore. It's time for you to find a girlfriend. I have a..." "Stop, don't talk. Can you apply the ointment quietly? If not, I'll go home and do it myself." Mo Yuanshan immediately shut up and quietly applied the ointment. After 10 seconds of silence, he spoke again. "What's going on between you and that Shenjilia? Is he looking for trouble with you?" Chapter 1384. Furthermore, he hadn't had much contact with Yi Yuyu recently. Even when Yi Yuyu had been hospitalized for a month, Li Jinan had only visited her twice to avoid arousing suspicion. That night was Yi Yuyu's first time, and it was also his first time. Li Jinan had never tasted a woman before, but that night wasn't bad. Originally, he had thought that he would be responsible for Yi Yuyu. Regardless of whether it was a scheme or an accident, it was still a one-night stand. He would accept it. Who knew that she was already married? Based on Li Jinan's upbringing, he wouldn't get involved with a married woman. However, perhaps all men had a strange deep-rooted bad habit. A woman that he had slept with, regardless of whether he liked her or not, would always leave a deep impression. Therefore, while Li Jinan avoided arousing suspicion in his personal life, He would intentionally or unintentionally take care of her at work. Could it be that he was taking care of her too much? Was that why she had attracted her husband's attention and taken such extreme measures? Li Jinan guessed in his heart and was slightly distracted. Mo Yuanshan called out, "Third brother?" "Yes." Li Jinan looked at Mo Yuanshan. "Is it done?" "Yes. That guy's confession is out. He said that you seduced his wife." Mo Yuanshan looked at the confession and laughed out loud. "This guy must be crazy. Can't he come up with a better excuse? Third brother, don't worry. Leave this matter to me. It's a small matter." When Li Jinan heard that, he became more and more annoyed. He stood up and said, "Fine. You settle it. I'm leaving." "All right. Be careful." Li Jinan walked out of the police station and returned to the company's garage to retrieve his car. His heart was filled with displeasure. Li Jinan lit a cigarette and started smoking. He looked at the broken computer in his hand and felt a headache coming on. He dialed Luo Zhan's number and started the car. When he arrived at Luo Zhan's house, he seemed to be extremely busy. The smart door opened. When Li Jinan entered, he saw Luo Zhan's fingers flying across the keyboard. Luo Zhan turned his head and saw Li Jinan's bandaged face. His eyelids twitched. *CK third brother, were you in a fight? Li Jinan wasn't in the mood to explain. He said, "Help me export the documents. I need them tomorrow." "That's it." Luo Zhan was speechless. "Your second brother also knows how to do it. You should ask your second brother." "Looking for my second brother? How am I supposed to explain my face? What if the children saw it? If my sister-in-law saw this, wouldn't she tell Grandpa and my parents?" Li Jinan was a little annoyed. "You're still the most reliable. Even if I suddenly come to your house, you're not afraid of bumping into a woman." Luo Zhan was Luo Zhan after all. He pursed his lips and honestly found a USB flash drive to direct it to him. He took out a pack of cigarettes and lit another one. "Brother Luo, you've had a girlfriend before. Why do you think a woman would reject her husband?" Luo Zhan said, "I did have a girlfriend, but I didn't have a deep relationship with her. Therefore, it was impossible for it to reach the stage that he mentioned." "What do you think?" "It's probably because the man is not good enough," Luo Zhan said casually. When those words fell into Li Jinan's ears, he had a sudden realization. So that was how it was. No wonder. Chapter 1385. After thinking about all this, Li Jinan suddenly seemed to understand. Li Jinan exhaled a long puff of smoke. He was very sympathetic and tapped the cigarette ash. Luo Zhan frowned and said with disgust, "You should control your smoking addiction. We are a family. Your second brother doesn't smoke. Why are you so addicted to smoking? You are the same age. My second brother has a son and a daughter. Why are you still single?" Luo Zhan was rendered speechless by Li Jinan's nonchalant words. Luo Zhan angrily pulled out the USB drive and threw it on him. "Well, you can go back now." Li Jinan picked up the USB drive and patted Luo Zhan on the shoulder. "Thank you. Goodbye." Luo Zhan was speechless. *CK. Can't you be more sincere? Li Jinan didn't look back. He closed the door and left. *CK. Luo Zhan felt that he had made a bad friend. Li Xiqing was like this. Oming was like this. Now even Li Jinan was like this. What kind of atmosphere is this? It's too much. Is it because I am too easy to bully? No. Impossible. It must be because they are two bullies. Luo Zhan turned back to the computer and continued to work. The more he thought about it, the more indignant he became. He picked up his phone, opened his WeChat Moments and posted, "I made a bad friend." As soon as he posted it, he received a like. It was from Yu Lily. She also commented, "Haha. Did you get cheated by Chanshan's husband again? Did you just find out that my husband is a good friend?" *CK. Oming and Li Xiqing are the same. Jackals of the same tribe. No one is any better. When he was about to reply, Su Chinsi also liked it and replied to Yu Lily, "I wanted to say that I was cheated by your husband. You're the bad guy. Sister-in-law, oh, your husband is bad. My husband is a good guy. Sister-in-law Lao Air, go away. My husband is at home. He didn't do anything. Don't wrongly accuse him. Sister-in-law, oh, my husband is also in the capital. He didn't do anything. Who is it?" Su Chinsi and Yu Lily stopped arguing and replied to Luo Zhan in unison. "Who is it?" Luo Zhan was still watching with great interest, but all of a sudden the spearhead turned to him and he began to panic. When she was about to reply to Li Laosan, Yu Lily replied, "Is it Louis Han?" Su Chinsi thought, "It's hard to say. That guy is not a good guy, haha. Luo Zhan laughed out loud. Louis Han was unjustly accused. Luo Zhan had just typed a few words, all guessed wrong. Just as he sent out the message, another comment appeared. Louis Han, colon? Sister-in-law replied to Louis Han. Tell me, did you do something to Luo Zhan? Second sister-in-law replied to Louis Han. You must have done something bad again. Louis Han, aggrieved, who did I offend? When Luo Zhan saw Louis Han's reply, he couldn't help but stare at it for a while. Long time no see, Louis Han. Other colleagues also liked it. Some gossipy people asked him what happened, but Luo Zhan was not in the mood to reply. He dropped the phone, turned his head and continued to work. But just as he put down the phone, he heard his phone ring. Louis Han, are you free tomorrow? Let's go play together. Luo Zhan looked at the message and thought he had read it wrong. He picked up the phone and looked at it several times to confirm. Chapter 1386. Luo Zhan almost screamed. Looking at the only line of words on the phone screen, his heart was beating faster and faster. Go out tomorrow? Where to go? Who will be there? How many people? Just the two of them? Countless thoughts flashed through Luo Zhan's mind, but after thinking about it he replied slowly, What time tomorrow? I'm a little busy during the day. I have a case to do, so I'm working overtime. Louis Han, tomorrow night. There are a lot of friends, many of whom you know. Let's go together? Oh, a lot of friends? And they all know each other. Luo Zhan was a little disappointed. After about a minute he replied, Okay. Whatever, let's go. We haven't seen each other for a long time. Luo Zhan put down the phone, turned his head and continued to work. Time flew by. Luo Zhan had a day of meetings and he was a little tired. But thinking of the date tonight he calmed himself down. After tidying himself up, he asked Louis Han for the address. It was a bar. There were many people there, and people in Louis Han's company liked to go there to have sex. There were many beautiful women and handsome men there, and the business was very good. Luo Zhan had always heard them talk about it, but he had never been there. He drove there with the GPS. As soon as he entered the bar, a beautiful woman with a slender waist came up to him, with a charming smile on her face. Luo Zhan saw the smile and the woman was looking at him, so he smiled back subconsciously. But who knew that the beautiful woman would smile like that, and she would come to Luo Zhan and say, Why haven't you come for a long time? I miss you so much. Then she hooked one leg and hugged Luo Zhan with one arm. Luo Zhan was shocked and said, What are you doing? Seeing Luo Zhan's reaction, the beautiful woman laughed and said, Don't you know me? Last time we went to the Shangri-La Hotel. Tonight let's go, Hearing this, Luo Zhan knew that it must be Luo Ran's romantic debt. Pushing the beautiful woman away, Luo Zhan said seriously, Beauty, you have the wrong person. The person you know is my twin brother. I don't know you. The smile on the beautiful woman's face froze, and she pushed Luo Zhan charmingly. You're so annoying. Just say it. What are you pretending for? What's wrong? Do you have a new prey you like? Do you want me to help you as your little sister? Luo Zhan replied. No, I'm here to find a friend. I'll talk to you later. Bye. With that, he slipped away. The beauty was flustered and exasperated. Damn you, stinky man. You don't want me anymore after just one time? It's not that cheap. Luo Zhan only felt as if there were needles on his back. He turned his head and saw the charming beauty just now glaring at him. He immediately turned back. Damn it, this damned Luo Ran. Luo Zhan here. A familiar voice came. It was Louis Han's colleague. Luo Zhan walked over and saw Louis Han sitting in the crowd. Louis Han seemed to have lost a lot of weight, looking taller and slimmer. The blue veins on the back of his hands were more obvious, and his Adam's apple and cheekbones were more prominent. This fellow didn't seem to have seen second brother's sister-in-law recently. Could it be that he's lovesick? Thinking of this, Luo Zhan felt a little upset. Chapter 1387. Luo Zhan's shoulder was hooked, and Louis Han's colleague suddenly came up, holding a glass of wine in his hand and said, Come on, drink up. Subconsciously turning his head to look at Louis Han, Luo Zhan took the glass of wine and drank it all at once. Good alcohol tolerance. The surrounding people clapped their hands saying, Ihan, look at your good buddy drinking, why don't you drink? Come on, it's not a big deal to fall out of love, it's not a big deal. The amount of information in these words almost made Luo Zhan spit out the wine in his stomach again. This, fall out of love? This guy fell out of love? Got dumped? How could it be? Yes, don't you know? The colleagues around Louis Han nodded, and suddenly began to gossip. She pulled Luo Zhan to sit down and said, "Let me tell you, Ihan had a girlfriend some time ago. She is very beautiful and has a good figure. She comes to our company every day to see him, but I don't know why she hasn't come recently." "Let me guess." The colleague's voice had not been loud, but when it came to this point, her voice was even lower. She said, "Have you noticed that Lu Ihan has lost a lot of weight recently?" Nonsense. He had noticed it the first time he saw it. Luo Zhan turned to look at the colleague and asked, "Is it because he was dumped and he is heartbroken, so he is like this?" No, no, no. The colleague immediately shook his head and said, "How could this guy be dumped by a woman? He was the one who dumped that girl." Luo Zhan could not understand and asked, "Why?" The colleague was very excited and clapped her hands, saying, "You are asking the right question. What? We are also guessing." Lu Ihan was playing with his mobile phone in the crowd, looking around, and finally his eyes fell on the gossip colleague next to Luo Zhan. He picked up a piece of fruit peel and threw it at him, saying, "Don't talk nonsense. You only know how to spread rumors." The colleague reached out to take the peel and said with a smile, "Of course not, but you are really amazing. You even hide it from your best buddy. You are not a good friend." The best of brothers? Is that him? For some reason Luo Zhan felt a little happy in his heart. See, at least in the eyes of others their relationship was still very good. "Shut up, don't talk nonsense." Lu Ihan gave him a warning look and the colleague immediately became quiet. This made things difficult for Luo Zhan. He didn't even finish his words. This feeling of not being able to go up or down was extremely uncomfortable in his heart. Luo Zhan looked at the person next to him, his face full of question marks. However, the man shrugged and said, "Hey, I'm going to the bathroom." He stood up and walked out. Luo Zhan immediately stood up and said, "I'll go too." "Didn't you just arrive? Are you going to the bathroom?" Lu Ihan knew what they were going to do at a glance and asked. But Luo Zhan didn't care at all. He turned his head and said confidently, "I have kidney deficiency." Under everyone's speechless gaze, Luo Zhan followed his colleague forward and urged, "What's going on?" The colleague turned to look behind her and said, "Ever since Ihan had that girlfriend he's been getting thinner and thinner. We all suspect that he couldn't take it anymore, so he dumped her." Luo Zhan said, "That's impossible, right? Hey, you don't know how seductive that woman is. Let me show you a photo." She quickly took out her phone and pulled up the photo. Luo Zhan looked at it and was stunned. Chapter 1388. She had willowy eyebrows, a pair of big round eyes, a high nose bridge, an oval face and loose hair. She looked pure and beautiful. She was a great beauty. At first glance she looked a bit like the wife of his second brother. Was this a coincidence? No way. Luo Zhan had seen Lu Ihan's feelings for her clearly over the years. He should just be looking for a substitute. Seeing that Luo Zhan did not speak, the colleague only thought that he was stunned by the beauty of the woman in the photo and sighed. "I have to say that this woman is really beautiful, but she is also very playful. At first glance you can tell that she is a strong woman, so Lu Ihan can't stand it." In other words, they had slept together? Luo Zhan felt uncomfortable. Staring at the photo, he pretended to ask casually, "How is her personality?" "Personality? Quite wild and hot. I like this type. However, I can't flirt with my friend's wife or I will." Luo Zhan could not listen anymore, turned around and walked back. "Hey, okay, I will stop pretending. Why are you running?" The colleague shouted behind Luo Zhan. Luo Zhan's mind was full of that face. That face was indeed somewhat similar to Su Qianxi's. Quite wild and hot. That was to say, it was not the same as Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi's character was very gentle and well-behaved, and she was always with his second brother. So, did Lu Ihan break up with her because of this? Because the girl's character was actually not the same as Su Qianxi's, so Lu Ihan felt that he had found the wrong substitute, so he broke up with her. So, why did Lu Ihan lose so much weight during this time? Was it because of a bad appetite? Or was it because of a bad stomach? As Luo Zhan thought about it, the noise in front of him had been restored. Looking at the red lights and green wine in front of him, the hot women coming and going, and the frivolous playboys, Luo Zhan found that he was deceiving himself. This was the world. Lu Ihan was already an adult man. He had his own life and his own choices. Even if he really slept with that woman, so what? Anyway, it was impossible between the two of them. Luo Zhan was well aware of this, but when he thought of this, his heart became more and more uncomfortable. Sighing heavily, Luo Zhan closed his eyes and murmured, Luo Zhan, wake up. You are a man." He opened his eyes and walked forward. Compared to just now, Luo Zhan was much more enthusiastic. She drank one glass after another and encouraged others to drink, but she never looked at Luo Han again. Luo Han did not touch a drop of alcohol the whole night. Luo Zhan saw it. When he was half drunk, he looked at Luo Han with a glass of wine and teased, "Hey Luo Han, why are you more and more like a gigolo? Trying to lose weight? You're so skinny that you look like a ghost. Do you know how ugly you are?" Luo Han's eyes were sober. Looking at Luo Zhan's flushed face, he calmly said, "You are drunk." When Luo Zhan heard that, he smiled and ignored him. He held the wine glass and drank it again. Luo Han couldn't stand it anymore. He stepped forward and snatched the glass away from him. "Don't you know that you can't drink? No one will care about you even if you die on the side of the road." Chapter 1389. The woman was wearing a tight silver dress that left her shoulders bare. Her arms were fair and delicate, and her face was painted with exquisite makeup. One look was enough to tell that she was a veteran who frequented nightclubs. When the crowd saw this woman, they all whistled. "Who is this? Aren't you going to introduce her to us? I didn't expect an honest boy like you to find such a beautiful girl." "Not honest? Ah." They spoke one after another, causing Luo Zhan to be somewhat annoyed. Waving his hand, Luo Zhan said impatiently, "What the hell? Where did this pheasant come from? Do I even know you?" When the woman heard this, her expression changed again and again. "What do you mean? I already said that I don't know you, but you insist on pestering me like this. If you're not a wild chicken, what are you?" Luo Zhan's tone was obviously very bad. Hey, how can you treat a beauty like this? You'll be punished by heaven if you do this." Some people around had already begun to feel pity for him. They looked at Luo Zhan reproachfully and said, "Beauty, this boy is drunk. Don't lower yourself to his level." But before he finished speaking, the man looked behind her with his eyes wide open. Not only him, but even the people around him all looked behind the woman. Behind the woman, more than a dozen tall and powerful men had already walked out, all wearing tight t-shirts. They all stood behind the woman, looking at the men in front of them with unfriendly expressions. The beauty sneered, looked at Luo Zhan and said, "If you have the guts, say what you just said again." Luo Zhan's back was facing them, so he naturally did not see their current situation. But when he saw the situation of his companions, he subconsciously turned around as well. With one glance, Luo Zhan was dumbfounded. He was just, simply in a bad mood, so he wanted to vent. What was going on now? Luo Zhan felt a little flustered and said, "What do you want?" The woman was very satisfied with Luo Zhan's expression. She turned to look at the tallest man in the crowd and said, "Brother, you heard that. This guy didn't pay me, and he even King called me a wild chicken. Help me teach him a lesson." Luo Zhan was a homebody, a well-deserved homebody. He was the kind of otaku with disheveled hair and a dirty face who had cancer of laziness. His muscles had already turned into fat. Seeing this, Luo Zhan's eyes widened. He looked at the group of people behind him and said, "There must be some misunderstanding. To be honest, I have schizophrenia. Just now, it was my other personality that spoke." The beauty in the lead sneered and said, "Then your personality switch is quite free. Big brother, beat him up." The beautiful woman waved her hand, and the muscular men behind her stepped forward. One by one, they flexed their muscles and quickly surrounded her. Luo Zhan sat where he was and suddenly sneered. He looked at them with a very calm expression and said, "Are you sure you want to do this? I'm warning you, you'll regret it. My big brother is around here. If he finds out that you bullied me, you'll die a horrible death." Hearing this, those people all laughed. The leader raised his leg and stepped on the table in front of Luo Zhan. He said, "Is that so? What's your brother's name?" Chapter 1390. Everyone was listening attentively. Seeing Luo Zhan's serious look, they thought he really had something up his sleeve. But when they heard the roar, everyone immediately understood. They had been tricked. The muscular man was suddenly pushed down and fell to the ground in an instant, appearing to be in a somewhat sorry state. At the same time, those who had been sitting down suddenly got up and dispersed. The muscular man who had been pushed down was furious and roared, "Stop!" His strong arm grabbed at Luo Zhan's leg. Luo Zhan lost his balance and fell forward. But the pain he had imagined didn't come. Instead, he fell into a soft and pungent embrace. Luo Zhan's lips kissed the breasts of the beautiful woman. The soft and fragrant touch would have made any man's heart flutter. But Luo Zhan wasn't an ordinary man. Such a touch that would make ordinary people feel good and happy was no different from a wild beast to Luo Zhan. Eyes wide, Luo Zhan subconsciously used his hands to prop himself up. But who knew that the beautiful woman would hug him and twist her body? She said, "Why didn't you do this earlier? What are you pretending for? We had a good time last time, didn't we?" As she spoke, the beautiful woman's mouth moved closer and asked, "You don't have a girlfriend yet, do you?" Luo Zhan's eyes widened. He suddenly felt goosebumps all over his body. This woman was obviously a slut. Not only had she slept with Luo Ran, but now she wanted to sleep with Luo Ran's younger twin brother? How could the two good children of the Luo family be tainted by such a slut? Luo Zhan turned his head in resistance and pushed the beautiful woman away. But this action made the beautiful woman, who had just calmed down, angry again. She shouted, "Beat him up." The surrounding people rushed forward and surrounded Luo Zhan. The people just now had already run far away. Fortunately, they didn't chase after them. The target of that group was Luo Zhan. "Hey, we just left Luo Zhan behind like this. Isn't that bad?" No, that woman is obviously interested in Luo Zhan. Maybe she wants to develop a relationship with him. But Luo Zhan doesn't seem to like that woman. Will he really develop a relationship with her? Besides, Luo Zhan's words were so harsh just now. It's really easy to get beaten up. Shall we go back and have a look? The sounds of discussion could be heard. Louis Han panted and stopped. He looked at his friends and said, "I'll go back and check. If I don't come back in 5 minutes, call the police and come back together. Do you understand?" "It's okay, I guess. Luo Zhan is very clever." "I think so too, and that woman probably can't bear to do anything to Luo Zhan. At most, she will drag him to get a room, haha." When Louis Han heard that, he suddenly felt a little guilty. Would Luo Zhan accept a woman? No, probably not. This guy wasn't the kind of person who was half-hearted, and it was even more impossible for him to be bisexual. Moreover, this fellow's mouth was so despicable. He might really get beaten up. Louis Han thought, quickened his pace and ran back to the bar. The bar was getting closer and closer. Louis Han ran in and saw the crowd. Chapter 1391. There was a lot of discussion in the crowd. Louis Han was shocked and rushed in at the first time. When he saw Luo Zhan, his face was already bruised and held by two people. Many people were looking at this side, but no one came forward. Damn. Louis Han only felt a rush of blood to the top of his head. Luo Zhan. Luo Zhan looked up a little awkwardly. His lips were bruised and swollen. Seeing Louis Han's livid face, he actually felt a little happy. Resisting the pain on his face, Luo Zhan twitched the corner of his mouth and said with a slightly teasing look, "What are you doing? Haven't you seen someone get beaten before?" This look, it was like when they were still living together. Every time he cooked, he would solemnly vow, "Today, I must let you taste what is called the Manchu Han Imperial Feast." But every time it ended in failure. Every time he would look unrepentant and loudly say, "What are you doing? Haven't you seen a chef fail before?" Memories came to him all at once. After all, they were friends for many years. Louis Han's heart seemed to be blocked. His masseter muscles tightened, and he rushed forward to pull the man who was holding Luo Zhan. There was a commotion around. All of them were people who were not afraid of getting into trouble. Some people even whistled to add to the fun. No one had the slightest intention to intervene. Louis Han's skills were not bad, but he was just an IT man. In terms of physical strength and skills, how could he compare with those people who had been in the underworld for a long time? For a time it was a hard fight. But Louis Han only hit a few times, and the situation was one-sided. Idiot. Luo Zhan really wanted to take him to see what a pig's brain looked like. In this case, couldn't it be over directly to the police? How could these thin arms and legs be the opponents of this group of muscular men? Just when Luo Zhan thought that he was going to be crippled here today, the crowd suddenly quieted down. "Don't move. Police." Although at the beginning the person who fell in the bar was Luo Zhan, but later, compared to Louis Han, Luo Zhan's injury seemed to be much lighter. The two were sent to the hospital by their colleagues. After a simple application of medicine, the colleagues went home, while Louis Han and Luo Zhan squatted at the door of the hospital and did not move. No one said they would leave first. The moon tonight seemed to be exceptionally round and bright. Luo Zhan looked at the sky. It was dark and a few scattered stars were far away from the moon. They were so faint that they were hard to see. The weather of early summer was neither hot nor cold. The two of them sat on the steps and listened to the chirping of the insects around them. They did not move for a long time. "I'm sorry I've implicated you." Luo Zhan didn't look back and said in a flippant tone, That woman is my brother's mistress. She mistook me for my brother. Damn, I was almost dragged to the hotel. Fortunately, I was quick-witted. Otherwise, my wife would not be able to enjoy my virginity in the future. Alas, tonight was so thrilling. Luo Zhan had a look of lingering fear. He exhaled and said, "But why did you come back in one piece? They would let me go after beating me up a few times. After all, with my looks they wouldn't bear to beat me up too much. You're different. You're ugly from head to toe. Who else would they beat if not you?" Lu Yihan turned to look at Luo Zhan and suddenly laughed. "Why are you so shameless?" His tone was relaxed just like before. Luo Zhan was stunned and turned to look at Lu Yihan. Seeing his eyes that were as bright as the night stars, Luo Zhan's lips twitched, but it hurt so much that he sucked in a breath. "Damn, I'm going back. I don't want to accompany you to feed the mosquitoes." Chapter 1392. When Luo Zhan heard that, he suddenly laughed. He turned around and walked toward the parking lot of the bar. Raising his head, he glanced at the hazy moon above his head. It seemed that the weather was pretty good. 2 days passed and Li Jinnan didn't appear in the office. Yi Yuyu went to work and got off work every day, but she didn't hear any mention of Li Jinnan from her colleagues. It wasn't just Li Jinnan. Even Shen Luo didn't appear again. The past 2 days had been unbelievably quiet. It was as if the previous episode had been nothing more than a minor accident. Yi Yu got off work as usual. A colleague that she was close with, Xiao Su, came up to her and asked, "Yi Yu, do you want to go shopping with us?" Xiao Su was a very pretty girl. She was very popular in the office. Yi Yu had a good impression of her. When she heard that, she remembered that it had been a long time since she'd gone shopping. She nodded her head and replied, "Sure." Xiao Su's eyes immediately turned into crescents. She happily said, "Let's go eat then. I haven't bought clothes in a long time. Come on, let's eat our fill before we go shopping." She affectionately went up to Yi Yu's arm and said, "You're a celebrity. You'll definitely have better taste than I do." Yi Yu worked at the office with the mindset of learning. Everyone in the office was aware of Yi Yu's identity as an artist. They all treated her with adoration and affection. It was perfectly normal for Xiao Su to say that. But, when those words fell into the ears of some people, they undoubtedly sounded like flattery. Hey Xiao Su, even if you want to suck up to someone better, you should find someone better to suck up to. People who don't know better would think that you're so shabby now, a woman who looked a little older said. Her eyes were filled with disdain and hostility. Yi Yu knew this woman. She and Xiao Su were from the same department. The two of them were competitors for the same position, and their results were often about the same. The difference wasn't huge. All along, Xiao Su had a good relationship with the department. It was only with this woman that she was at loggerheads with. Xiao Su obviously didn't like this woman either. She snorted coldly, "It's none of your business who I want to be friends with. You're just a dog trying to catch a mouse." When she was about to turn around and leave, she heard the man say, "We are all colleagues. I just don't want you to lose too badly." At first, everyone thought that there was something between her and the CEO. After all, that kind of popular role was something that all the popular stars wanted, but no one could get it. But it was given to such a half-new and half-lukewarm artist. I just didn't expect that. The man held the briefcase and sneered as he passed by Xiao Su. Xiao Su was a little angry and said, "Why are you so dark in your heart?" Yi Yu got in through a proper audition. Her acting skills are much better than that thigh you hugged. It's just that her luck wasn't that good. Who would have thought that they would encounter such an accident during filming? Little Sue's heart ached a little. Yi Yu didn't give up on herself. She even came to the company to study. She's much better than you. The man's face was full of disdain. Idiot. With that, he walked away with his head held high. Halfway down the stairs, a rather inconspicuous Land Rover stopped in front of them. The car window was rolled down, revealing the slightly scarred and resolute face inside. He turned to look at Yi Yu and said, "Get in." Chapter 1393. Xiao Su and the girl who had just spoken were shocked. They looked at her in disbelief. Li Jinan sat in the car calmly. The scab on his face had already formed a scab. It was eye-catching on his clean and handsome face. Yi Yu was shocked to see Li Jinan like that. When she heard that word, she looked at the two colleagues beside her. At that moment, it wasn't just the two of them. Even the passers-by were looking at Yi Yu strangely. Yi Yu felt a chill down her spine. She braced herself and asked, "Jim Li, is something the matter?" When Li Jinan heard that, he only glanced at her and repeated, "Get in the car." With her colleagues watching, Yi Yu was a little reluctant. If I get in the car at that moment, what will my colleagues think? Will they think that I'm Li Jinan's mistress? Just as Yi Yu was deep in thought, Xiao Su nudged her and said, Yu GM Li is calling for you. Hurry up and get in the car. Shin is nearby. Li Jinan didn't say his name. The look he gave her was unreadable. I could only get the police to keep him in custody for 48 hours. He was released last night. Yi Yu was stunned. Her heart skipped a beat. She instinctively looked to her left and right. Yi Yu naturally knew who Shin Liangchuan was referring to. No wonder she hadn't seen Shin Luo, and for the past 2 days. He had been detained by the police. She knew that Shin Luo, and wouldn't let it go so easily. Get in the car. This is the last time. Li Jinan's voice was low. As he spoke, he started the car. Yi Yu's heart skipped a beat. She turned to look at Xiao Su apologetically and said, I'm sorry. Let's do it another day. With that, Yi Yu opened the front passenger door and got in. Without waiting for Yi Yu to fasten her seatbelt, Li Jinan stepped on the accelerator and drove forward. The car was big, but the air pressure was a little low. Li Jinan drove a little fast. Yi Yu fastened her seatbelt, but her heart couldn't stop racing. Miss Yi, do you love your husband? Li Jinan asked without turning his head as he placed both hands on the steering wheel. Yi Yu never expected that the first thing she would hear from Li Jinan after getting into the car would be that. When he buckled his seatbelt, the sound of the buckling was especially loud. She looked up at Li Jinan. His side profile, which was usually almost perfect, now had a few scratches and scabs. He still looked a little out of place. Sensing Yi Yu's shocked gaze, Li Jinan turned his head to look at her. He quickly averted his gaze and looked straight ahead. Yi Yu was still in a state of shock. It took her a long time to regain her composure. She mumbled, Jim Li, why do you ask? Your husband is sick. Li Jinan was concise and to the point. I can tell that he's a little out of his mind. I see that you're often in Kingstown. Even when you were hospitalized, he didn't come by more than a few times. I heard from your sister that you don't have a good relationship with your husband. Is it a marriage of convenience? Marriage for show, in other words, marriage for show. It usually occurs in homosexuals and people with high status who have hidden diseases. This kind of person needed a partner to maintain their image in society, but there would be no love or sexual relationship with the partner they married. The other half of such a person was very pitiful. Chapter 1394. Wasn't their marriage just a marriage of convenience? Apart from the marriage certificate, there was no other relationship between her and Shin Luo, and that was similar to that between husband and wife. Nothing at all. The love of the past also slowly dissipated along with the coldness he had been showing all this time. Yi Yu's eyes were filled with sorrow. The smile on her face was filled with indescribable bitterness. Li Jinan took in her expression clearly. Very quickly, he turned his head back and slowly said, Get a divorce. Marry me. If Yi Yu had only been shocked a moment ago, then she was now terrified. She looked at Li Jinan in disbelief. It was as if she was looking at a lunatic. Li Jinan drove steadily. His voice was magnetic, but his tone was cold. When he said those words, his face didn't show much emotion. In fact, he was expressionless. This must be a joke, right? Yi Yu was a little frightened. She laughed dryly and said, Jim Li, please don't make such jokes. Li Jinan turned the steering wheel, and the car turned into a small road. The car slowed down. The car quickly came to a stop. Li Jinan turned his head to look at her and asked, Do I look like I'm joking? Indeed he didn't. Furthermore, would Li Jinan joke? He didn't look like someone who would joke. He was from a military background. He was a man of his word, wasn't he? But why would Li Jinan have such thoughts? Yi Yu felt a little frightened. She looked at Li Jinan without saying a word. Li Jinan looked at her. He took out a pack of cigarettes and slowly lit one. Yi Yu stared at the orange-red flame that burned the tip of the cigarette into ashes. The flame flickered, mirroring her current mood. I've never had a girlfriend and I've never touched another woman. That night was your first time and it was my first time as well. No matter how you look at it, you're not at a disadvantage. Li Jinan flicked the ash off his cigarette and said, Since your relationship with your husband isn't harmonious, it's best to get a divorce early. A marriage of convenience. The only thing that mattered between them was profit. Li Jinan didn't think he was bad. At the very least, he was much better than Shin Luo Han. Compared to a husband of convenience who was prone to domestic violence, an outstanding man like Li Jinan should be much more attractive. A normal woman, no matter how stupid she was, would know what to choose. Li Jinan was very confident. He didn't think that Yi Yuyu would reject him. When Yi Yuyu heard those words, she felt a little uncomfortable. Because it was her first time, and because she had never had sex with Shen Luo, and before, he felt that she was acceptable, so he felt that he could marry her. Was that what he meant? Would it be Li Jinan's first time? Li Jinan was only 1 year younger than Shen Luo. He was already 29 years old. Such a man still had his first time, and it was with her? Yi Yuyu found it hard to believe. GM Li, I'm married. With your status and background, you can go find young and beautiful girls who haven't been married before. She couldn't understand what he was thinking. She continued, if you feel that you need to be responsible for me because it's my first time, GM Li, I can tell you very clearly that there's no need. Chapter 1395. Quality? Yi Yuyu stared at the side of his face in a daze. The wind from the window was rather strong. Li Jinan's eyes were squinted by the wind. He turned his head to look at Yi Yuyu. His red lips parted slightly as he continued, now that things have already happened, I think Miss Yi is very suitable. Very suitable? Does that mean they are very compatible in bed? She laughed and said, Jim Lee, I've been married before. That's already unfair to you. Furthermore, I don't think we're suitable for each other. Your status is too high and your net worth is too high. I can't match up to you. Besides, it's not up to me to decide whether or not we get a divorce. Wasn't it up to her to decide whether to divorce or not? Li Jinan raised his eyebrows slightly, but in his heart, he felt that it was only natural. After all, wouldn't a marriage of convenience be formed only after reaching an agreement of benefits? He looked at her and asked, are you saying that as long as Shen Luo agrees to the divorce, you'll be with me? When Yi Yuyu heard that, she looked at him as if he was a lunatic. He had originally thought that this fellow was quite normal and decent. Why was his way of thinking so deviant? He was as difficult to communicate with as Shen Luo. She didn't want to pay any more attention to the man. She reached out to open the car door and said, thank you for bringing me here. I can go back on my own. As she spoke, she had no intention of stopping. Yi Yuyu quickly got out of the car, slammed the door shut and turned to leave. Li Jinan turned his head to look. The wind outside was very strong. Yi Yuyu's dress clung tightly to her body, making her look especially thin and frail. Just now she had tacitly agreed, right? Li Jinan put out the cigarette and looked at himself in the rearview mirror. He raised his eyebrows slightly. Yi Yuyu was a good woman. Since Shen Luo couldn't give her happiness, he would. Yi Yuyu hailed a taxi. When she got in, Li Jinan's rebellious words kept replaying in her mind. There were millions of good girls in the world, but he actually persuaded a married man to divorce and be with him? The more Yi Yuyu thought about it, the more she felt that he was toying with her. How could a normal 29-year-old man not have had a girlfriend? Furthermore, how could a normal 29-year-old man not have had a girlfriend? Secondly, Li Jinan was so good that all the women in Kingstown would flock to him with a single word from him. Why did he have to hang himself on a tree like her? Moreover, in Shen Luo's words, she had been married before and divorced before remarrying. In the eyes of others, Li Jinan was like picking up used shoes. How could the Li's family allow their descendants to pick up used shoes? Yi Yuyu had figured it all out. She felt even more stifled. She cursed in a low voice, "You're crazy." The taxi driver glanced at the rearview mirror with a strange expression. Yi Yuyu ignored him and drove straight to their destination. Yi Yuyu opened the car door and made her way back home. Just as she reached the entrance of the estate, she saw a familiar figure walking in the garden in front of the estate. The man raised his head. It was obvious that he had seen Yi Yuyu. His hands were in his pockets. His eyes were sinister as he looked at Yi Yuyu with a faint smile. When Yi Yuyu saw the man, her heart skipped a beat. She stopped in her tracks. Chapter 1396. Shen Luo's voice was very slow. His eyes were fixed on Yi Yuyu. His footsteps were neither fast nor slow, but every step he took seemed to trample on Yi Yuyu's heart. Yi Yuyu looked at Shen Luo and her heart beat faster and faster. The man in front of her had dark circles under his eyes, but it was obvious that he had freshened up and changed his clothes. He didn't look like he had been imprisoned. However, he still looked tired. His complexion didn't look good. It was obvious that he hadn't had a good time the past 2 days. Shen Luo saw Yi Yuyu's expression and smiled. "Come back to the capital with me, Yuyu. You haven't seen Kei Yi in a long time, have you?" Guan Kui. That name had existed between Yi Yuyu and Shen Luo for 7 years. For 7 years, that name had been a barrier between them. Even though she knew that there was such a person between them, Yi Yu still married him without hesitation after he proposed. She had thought that as time went on, dripping water would wear away a rock. Who knew? Yi Yu suddenly felt ridiculous. She wanted to laugh but her heart ached. Shenluo walked closer and said, "Let's go back to see her. I think she must miss you very much." Shenluo An's expression was very normal. He looked at her and slowly said, "Also, Mom and Dad have been talking about you lately. You don't want to go back during the holidays. You're the daughter-in-law of the Shen family after all. Even if your heart isn't here, you should still show the proper etiquette. If it was Kei, he wouldn't have been so rude." "Is that so?" Yi Yu looked up at Shenluo, and without backing away. "I heard that Guan Kui's condition has improved a lot recently. Didn't you go to see her? My mom asked me for something of yours last time. Didn't they contact you?" Shenluo really didn't know about that. He frowned and asked, "Kei is better? What does she want from me?" Yi Yu carefully looked at Shenluo An's expression and smiled. "She wants your essence of the night." Shenluo was stunned. He looked at Yi Yu and his face darkened. Nonsense. How could Kei want something like that? Guan Kui's personality was very pure. Because of her family she might have been a little arrogant, but she was also very kind. If one were to describe Yi Yu as a beautiful lily whose fragrance wafted from miles away, then Guan Kui would be the sweet and lovely daughter of a humble family. She was a jasmine that people couldn't help but love. She exuded an elegant and enchanting temperament from head to toe. She was so clean that she was above the common people. However, such a girl had been ruined by a wild lily in the past. Shenluo looked at Yi Yu's face and became more and more impatient with her. He sneered and said, "She's already been forced into this state by you. At this point you still want to defame her? Yi Yu, you're getting more and more despicable." Every word that came out of Shenluo An's mouth was like a venomous dart. Not a single one missed, and every one of his moves was deadly. It was always like that. Guan Kui was beautiful, but she was evil. Her family, her lover, and no one believed her. Yi Yu looked at Shenluo and chuckled. She averted her eyes and said, "It's up to you whether you believe me or not. I've already conveyed my message. Since Guan Kui has regained consciousness, she probably needs you the most. It's a pity that I've been busy with work lately, so I won't be going back with you to see her. You can go by yourself." Chapter 1397. You're feeling guilty, aren't you? Shenluo was already standing in front of Yi Yu. The distance between them was only a step. "Are you afraid that you'll feel guilty when you see her?" Shenluo An's eyes were burning. He looked at Yi Yu with a hint of anticipation. When he realized what he was feeling, Shenluo was stunned. What was I anticipating? Hoping that this woman would repent? Hoping that this woman would feel guilty? Shenluo laughed at the thought. It wasn't clear whether he was saying it for Yi Yu or himself. Shenluo muttered, "How is that possible? If I felt guilty, you would have felt guilty a long time ago." Yi Yu's gaze was calm as she replied, "I've said it before. It wasn't me. I won't admit to anything that wasn't done by me. I said the same thing back then and I still say the same thing now." The anticipation in Shenluo An's heart completely dissipated. His gaze returned to coldness. With both hands in his pockets he asked, "Aren't you going to invite me to your house?" "I'm sorry. I'm not interested." Yi Yu walked around him and prepared to leave. Before she could take a step forward, he grabbed her arm. Shenluo stared at her. His gaze was malicious and his grip was strong. He said, "But I'm very interested. We've been married for more than half a year, and we haven't slept together. You're still a virgin, aren't you? I'd like to verify it myself." When Yi Yu heard that, her breathing quickened. An indescribable emotion suddenly expanded in her heart and exploded. She waved her hand violently in an attempt to shove his hand away, but all she got was a heart-wrenching pain. "What? You don't dare?" The suspicion that Shenluo had been harboring for a long time was confirmed. "Yi Yu, did you cheat on me?" It sounded like a question, but there was no doubt in his tone. Yi Yu's heart skipped a beat. Her face turned red. She gritted her teeth and yelled, "What are you doing? Let go of me." Shenluo An's masseter muscles tightened, and he tightened his grip on her hand. Yi Yu screamed and yelled, "Help! Let go of me." The commotion between Yi Yu and Shenluo was very eye-catching at the entrance of the neighborhood. At that moment, Yi Yu's screams attracted the attention of many of the residents. The two burly men who lived in the neighborhood had just parked their car. When they heard Yi Yuyu shout, they immediately looked over. At first glance, they recognized that the girl was their neighbor. The two of them rushed over and shouted, "What are you doing? Let go." Shenluo, Anne's heart sank. He loosened his grip and said, "I'm her husband." "No." She thanked the two burly men and ran toward the lobby of the neighborhood. "You're right," Yi Yuyu said quickly after her hand was released from her grip. The two men didn't know Shenluo and had never seen him before. When they saw that Yi Yuyu didn't have a strong reaction, they didn't meddle. However, Shenluo and didn't know which block, which floor and which room Yi Yuyu lived in. Now that she had run away, he couldn't find her again. Shenluo and was so angry that he gritted his teeth. But soon he calmed down and breathed a sigh of relief. He muttered, "Shenluo, and calm down. Wait a minute, Shinjilia seems to be very familiar with that woman's sister. Furthermore, he was a frequent visitor to Kingstown. He should know which building and which room Yi Yuyu was staying in." Shenluo and thought for a moment and picked up his phone to call Shinjilia. Chapter 1398. Shinjilia was still in the hospital. He had just packed his things and was about to leave when he received a call from Shenluo Han. Luo Ran had just picked up his car keys when he saw Shinjilia pick up the phone. He whistled and asked, "A date with a pretty lady?" "It's my brother." Shinjilia picked up the phone and picked up his backpack. "Hello. Xiaolai, are you close to Yi Chanchan?" Shinjilia was surprised to hear Yi Chanchan's name from Shenluo An's mouth. As he walked, he asked, "What's wrong? How do you know Yi Chanchan?" "I need to talk to her about something. Do you know where she lives? Give me the address." Shinjilia felt a little strange. Shenluo and has something to talk to Yi Chanchan about? Why does it sound so mysterious? Yi Chanchan hates Shenluo Han. Is he going to cause trouble for Yi Chanchan? Shinjilia was silent for a moment before saying, "I have a good relationship with Chanchan, but she's always moving. I don't know where she lives now. She used to live in Jinlonggang. Do you want to go there and take a look? Building 305. Go take a look." Jinlonggang? Shenluo and looked up at the entrance of the neighborhood. The words Wangjiang No. 1 came into view. "Isn't Yi Chanchan living with Yi Yuyu?" Shenluo and frowned and nodded his head. "All right. Thanks. Brother, why are you looking for her?" "It's nothing. Go on with your work." "All right. Our hospital recently received a special patient. Do you know who it is?" Shinjilia walked out with Luo Ran. They were already at the elevator. "I wanted to call you to tell you, but I forgot." When Shenluo and heard that, he could vaguely guess what was going on. He asked, "Who is it?" "Guan Kui." Shinjilia entered the elevator. The signal was a little bad. Shenluo and heard a distorted voice coming from the other side of the phone. It wasn't clear. He could only hear the word Guan, but he calmed down and shouted, "Who? Say that again?" Shinjilia secretly clicked his tongue. Why is she so agitated? "Guan Kui. She's the good friend that you and sister-in-law grew up together. She's sister-in-law's older sister, Guan Kui." "Guan Kui. It's really her. Is she in your hospital now?" Shenluo An's heart ached. The hospital where Shenluo An worked was a psychiatric hospital. "Yes, she's not in good spirits, but she can recognize people. The last time I went to see her, she recognized me and asked about you. I told her that you married my sister-in-law. You told her?" Shenluo An's voice was a little solemn. Shinjilia's voice suddenly rang out and he paused for a moment. "I did," Shenluo An asked, "How did she react?" Shinjilia didn't know what to say. He said, "She looked happy, but at the same time she didn't look too happy. After that she was pushed away and I haven't seen her since. I only saw her once." Shenluo An was silent for a moment. He glanced at Yi Yuyu's neighborhood and said, "Help me make an appointment. I'll go visit her tomorrow." Aren't you in Kingstown? Will you be back tomorrow?" "Yes." "Oh." Shinjilia stopped in his tracks. "I'll make an appointment then. What time will you be arriving tomorrow?" 2 o'clock in the afternoon. "Are you alone?" Shinjilia had no choice but to turn back. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.